My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft.
All right, plane activity. I'm documenting the entity's gang stalking by commercial planes following from the town square last night, the town square yesterday to the OVITT Family Community Library, following then to Chevron, following then to Gloria's Cochinas as I documented, then following back toward Starbucks last night. The entity is, again, today is September 13, 2025, the entity is stalking as I am traveling on foot and is stalking by use of commercial planes. And that's what my documentation proves. Today, September 13th, the entity is stalking by planes from what is 415 North Euclid Avenue, where the entity, all of the state is proven to be stalking me, where that's where the fake sun rises, okay, which I've shown a consistent body of evidence. Where I sleep, where I'm documenting the demons stalking me by helicopter at night, that's where the fake sun is rising, and that's where all of the state is stalking me, and I've documented that. And so this is where the entity is following from 415 North Euclid Avenue to what is the 7-Eleven at 636 North Vine, where the entity is maintaining plane activity as I come back toward what is the Ontario Town Square. Coming from, what is that? Yeah, Euclid Avenue going through the parking lot. This is where the entity is covering up the sky. This is not the natural weather. In the same way that the sun being rising at the Ontario Town Square and setting at the Ontario Town Square, like I document, that's not the natural environment. It's not the natural weather. So the entity is engaging what is covering up, and the record already shows. And before 2025, I already had that evidence of the fake sun rise and set at 224 North Euclid Avenue. The entity is covering up the sky, and so demons are stalking me using planes, which is merely the amplified audible activity of what you're assuming is plane activity. The demons engage in stalking in planes, meaning flying over me by planes, and essentially the sound of loud plane engines. I've shown you what is amplification, which is demonic. It's as demonic as a demon possessed person that's operating a vehicle, and it's totally separate from the impossible light activity that flies in the air, that moves across the building it's separate, okay? So the entity is covering up the sky space and maintaining ongoing audible noise under the guise of plane activity. The entity is stalking in the sky space, but they're just maintaining an ongoing, I refer to it in my documentation historically as like playing a loud tape of music. So they're press play on the tape of plane engines, as so it's been associated, because that's the noise that they play when the planes are stalking above me, okay? That's what the entity is doing, and the sky is covered up so that I can't see the logo of the particular corrupt company like Southwest Airlines. But it's already known that every airline is going to be prosecuted, engaged in the federal RICO. It's already known that the Ontario International Airport is a gang stalker engaged in the conspiracy to commit murder. It's already known. So the entity is engaged in, again, criminal obstruction of justice while they're monitoring evidence, and they're still engaging in the same pattern of conduct, and all of the defendants are already identified, and all of the defendants' criminal activity is already known. So I just want to be clear. This is evidence the entity is following me from place to place, doing so with the demonic system. That's the specific environment that follows the target individual. That's how you're able to prosecute the bank where you're going to. That's how you're able to prosecute the apartment complex where you live, and that property management company, which is the people of the state, because then you're prosecuting the government, because the bank where you're at, the apartment complex where you live, that property management company, a business where you're going to shop and buy your clothes, they're all monitoring, and they're monitoring with that city, that county, that state. That's P.O.C. It's currently, it's currently 7:20 a.m. So the entity is stalking as I walk toward Euclid Avenue. Graffiti patrol is stalking with light activity. I documented that demon and that company doing so under the fake sun, and is stalking with peculiarized light right now. Again, graffiti patrol is, their impunity is documented on the record. Their engagement in hiring immigrants is legally relevant for how they're going to be prosecuted and how the employees of that domestic terrorist is going to be treated under the law. They're systematically monitoring with the City of Ontario, and they're doing so with impunity, meaning they're stalkers who are very much sitting back, monitoring, keeping under surveillance the evidence about them stalking somebody, and that is the federal government who is collecting that evidence as though you are a terrorist in the country, and you're going to sit back and watch the federal government and laugh in the face of the federal government and continuously, that's tantamount to what the demons are doing while they're monitoring the evidence and gang stalking, even more so as you document, and that's relevant to the enemies of the United States. And who has been engaging in that? The City of Ontario, every function of the City of Ontario, full of what are enemies of the United States, enemies of this country, the domestic enemy, that's also demonstrating severe mental illness. They will be both committed, diagnosed, and criminally convicted for the system of gang stalking. So I just want to break that down. The entity is following to what is the Ontario Town Square, where the entity is maintaining that ongoing elements of monitoring, whether you're covering up the sky so that the fake sun can't be documented. Okay, everybody already knows what you're doing with the fake sun. They know the significance of that you're demons that are stalking with light. That's the criminal conduct of what the City of Ontario is doing, what the people of the state are doing. This isn't traffic. These are demons that are stalking with impossible light, and they're demons that are stalking with a function of light, which is their vehicles, one after another, after another, after another, while they're on the roads and the highways. Those are demons, millions of them, that are stalking together, and they're engaging in the elements of monitoring. These are demon-possessed people, millions of them, that are engaging in the satanic targeting system together, and they're while they're in an engineered environment. On a cloudy day, the impossible light activity is still present. They're still in the same environment, and it is significant with regard to monitoring on devices, with regard to presence, movement, noise. That's why they're stalking with amplified plane activity on a cloudy day. They're still in that same engineered environment. They're still stalking with light. This is P.O.C. That's the entity using the smaller planes, and that's the same government. And they're doing so with demons that are surrounding with methods of peculiarized light, like graffiti patrol, okay? This is P.O.C. It's currently, again, 7:22 a.m. on Saturday, September 13th, 2025. This is P.O.C. (8:03 a.m.) And Ontario police engaging in terrorism, crossing path repeatedly, doing so while they're stalking with the population, the people of the state. So when the Ontario police or when any government actor, especially the highest threat posed by the government where the so-called police are stalking, gang stalking, that's the highest threat, and the entity is not engaging in anything other than surveillance with the same population in the same specific environment with the same knowledge, meaning they're keeping under surveillance and they're engaging in what is conspicuous stalking with the intent to threaten, harass, intimidate. While they're conspiring your murder, the purpose of them stalking and gang stalking in the first place. Ontario police engaging in that, and they're on traffic cameras, repeatedly crossing path in multiple vehicles. This is I'm at the Ontario Town Square facing west, and they are gang stalking with the intent to communicate an unlawful threat. The entity's a documented pattern of kidnapping, a documented pattern of criminal defamation and physical battery, and they're doing so while, again, their co-defendant, Jason Isaac Fields, this is the demon sharing in psychological torture, his sex partner, all of their sex partners, Tracy Banks. These are cult members that are together engaged in the satanic system of gang stalking me, while they have all together stolen money from me, stolen property from me, and they are gang stalking me together, okay? So the demons of the Ontario police are the ones physically in the path, communicating that threat as a demon-possessed agency conspiring my murder and conspicuously stalking, while Ontario police vehicles cross path one time, then cross path again a second time, then cross path again a third time, then cross path again a fourth time, then cross path again, driving in the direction south on Euclid Avenue, crossing path again a fifth time, crossing path again a sixth time, okay, and then crossing path again, driving in the direction south a sixth time. This is what the entity is doing. They're gang stalking, and this is the Ontario police. You're listening to the ongoing body of evidence of what the Ontario Police Department has committed over the years while conspiring my murder and gang stalking with the people of the state. And this is the criminal system that the people of the state, including businesses, share in, while they've also engaged in kidnappings. And they are doing so including with, again, aiding Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, who are being prosecuted for, again, the payments for the conspiracy with the Ontario police to target me, to psychologically torture me. As I break down that system for you, I'm advocating on the part of the ordinary target individual. These demons are triggered because what I find to be child's play. I laugh at it, and I break it down for you so that you understand the tools of the enemy. But it's just demonic. It's like having a body full of maggots. Okay, ordinarily, maybe that causes somebody else to run off screaming and having a breakdown. I'm looking at you like, ew, you're gross, don't touch me. And I'm gonna make sure everybody else knows that you're nothing other than a dough full of maggots. That's what the demon-possessed are. That's what they do. They engage in very childlike conduct while they're engaged in very serious conduct. They're conspiring your murder. They're sitting around, lurking around you like sharks in the water, circling around under the fake sun and engineer light, waiting to commit murder. That's what they're doing. That's why they're gang stalking. No small thing, but very childlike, very immature. 7-year-olds have no business in law enforcement. 7-year-olds have no business with badges and police uniforms and vehicles, having access to helicopters and representing what is the authority. They're not, and they are not, in fact. You're witnessing in the physical what has already been established in the spirit. The Ontario Police Department are already fired. They're already removed from position. They've already been stripped of authority that they stole as demons, Satan-serving psychopaths. And they have been publicly exposed as such, and they're being publicly judged for that. And that's symbolic regarding this demonic spirit that fills the state of California, where every law enforcement agency is engaged in surveillance, and every person. These are demons that fill the state of California, and they're engaged in stalking. And while I document what is child's play to me, I laugh at it. It's very serious conduct because it is that which is psychologically harmful to the ordinary targeted individual, that person that is living in a bubble, that's being threatened by the people that are always harassing them, always following them around, always falsely accusing them, always physically harming them, always setting them up okay? Defaming their character and stealing from them, okay? Ruining their lives. And this is what the entity is doing. And this is what the Ontario Police Department, as demons, they represent the template of corrupt law enforcement agencies who are not engaged in any law enforcement. They're stalkers. And the reason why they're stalkers is because they have the spirit of Satan on them. Okay, and that's also why I was able to capture that highly probative body of evidence where there's no reasonable question whatsoever about what they are doing, who they are doing it to, and also the evidence is so probative and thorough, I'm able to give you a psychological breakdown of what's wrong with them as they do it, including that spiritual assessment. They're demons, and that's why their mental state is so demented. That's why, on top of prosecuting them for their physical conduct with tangible evidence. Okay, so the Ontario Police is engaging in that, and they're doing so while they're keeping me under surveillance, and the stalker just wants to communicate a threat. Every time you see that logo, every time you hear that helicopter, and that's the entity that's engaged in psychological warfare. The entity is engaged in child's play, harming themselves. They're going to prison for what they're doing, and their tactics are not working. They don't work against me, but you're dealing with the mentally ill who continue in what is a failed endeavor to their own demise. But it is informing you regarding the devices of the enemy, the ways of the enemy, how the enemy is operating, and how this system works. Okay? It is currently, just want to include that documentation, it's 8:09 a.m. at the Ontario Town Square. This is P.O.C. Ontario Town Square. 8:18 a.m. 8:20 a.m. Ontario Town Square. The entity is stalking by helicopter. That's the Ontario police that are being disbanded. Flying over me where I'm seated at the Ontario Town Square. And the people of the state are stalking, just like they are with the Ontario International Airport, and the traffic is synchronized with that amplified audible activity, and the demons that are crossing paths with light and audible activity, the thousands of people that are gang stalking with the city of Ontario. All right, I want to be clear, this is what they were doing when they're on the roads and the highways. While I documented that demon, gang stalking, and get that license plate on video last night, and then the 3 additional demons in those Ontario Police Department vehicles, and then the additional, and then the entity added helicopter, that was all gang stalking, just like this is. They're going to federal prison. It is currently 8:22 a.m. The entity is flying over my head where I am seated at the Ontario Town Square, where I'm also documenting the fake sun rising and setting over me at the Ontario Town Square. The people of the state are stalking. You can hear the train activity. The people of the state are crossing path north and south on Euclid Avenue, gang stalking with the city of Ontario. That's the government acting vicariously. The helicopter activity is the government acting directly. These are demons engaging in what are the elements of light, audible activity, and relevant positioning, while they are, as an entity, as a group, gang stalking. This is the ritual that the demon-possessed practice before they commit murder as an entity as well, and it's public corruption. This is P.O.C. It's currently 8:22 a.m. This is the disbanding of the Ontario Police, and again, the demons that are going to federal prison as of 2025 for kidnapping, pursuant to this criminal activity that they were engaging in and committing kidnapping and furtherance of that criminal conduct. The documented kidnappings by C. Hazelwood, Owens, L. Edwards, also what is A. Casada, Alex Escobar, and then the May 29, 2025 kidnapping. They were gang stalking and they committed kidnapping. The entity is going to federal prison and includes B. Hook, Nathan Morgan. You have C. Torres and L. Martinez. They're all going to prison, all right? And the entity that's documented gang stalking, like I'm documenting on a daily basis, they're going to federal prison for gang stalking by helicopter. They're going to federal prison for gang stalking, as I'm documenting, co-conspirators to my murder, representing a corrupt police department, psychologically torturing, harassing, and terrorizing, and doing so in concert with the people who are sharing in that government system. They're going to federal prison while they do so as an employee of the Ontario Police Department. This is P.O.C. It is 8:23 a.m. at 224 North Euclid Avenue. P.O.C. All right, I want to document That is the entity flying over me by helicopter, and that's the entity that's doing so while they were also stalking using the police vehicles like I documented. On traffic cameras, they're driving south over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. The entity's doing so driving north, crossing paths, stalking, and the entity's stalking using the helicopters of the Ontario Police as well. All right, it's currently 8:24 a.m. All right, that's helicopter activity. That's audible activity. This is surveillance. And you're also going to be prosecuted for the psychological harms inherent to demons that are engaging in the satanic system of monitoring. Stalking again with the people of the state who are crossing paths on Euclid Avenue. Monitoring with the police department that's being disbanded. This is public corruption. And this is the same Ontario Town Square where I'm capturing the sunset last night where they were stalking as well by helicopter. This is P.O.C. And that's demonic pacing. So they fly over my head in the direction west, and they're crossing path again, flying back east. That's pacing, going back and forth. That's what the people of the state are doing on Euclid Avenue. And that's what they're doing all together, big picture. If you look at an aerial map, all the demon possessed are doing in the engineered environment is pacing back and forth and back and forth. The demon is doing that using an Ontario Police Department helicopter. That's a demon. That's Ontario Police flying over my head again. This is again, I'm putting that in the playlist regarding the demons that outwardly demonstrate their mental illness outside of the elements of monitoring and gang stalking in the first place. The psychopathic conduct of pacing by flying in circles over me, which is what the demons were doing. This demon was doing, well, the demon that was operating the helicopter yesterday evening, flying in circles over my head, flying in circles for an hour as I documented at the Ontario Town Square from 8:59 to 9:59, flying in circles over me for 20 minutes as I documented from 9:53 to 10:17 a.m. at the same Ontario Town Square, flying in circles over me, again, like I've documented, at the plethora of venues in Ontario where the entity is keeping a fake sun. Covering up the fake sun right now at the same Ontario Town Square where the fake sun is already documented, rising and setting in alignment to me, is the same pattern of conduct. People of the state are gang stalking, so as Wells Fargo. They're using it as a venue. And this is the entity that's engaging in that while I'm documenting the people of the state. All right, it's currently 8:26 a.m. This is the entity that's engaging in this while keeping the evidence under surveillance. And I want to be clear. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. It's not just the demons of the Ontario Police. They are gang stalking with regard to helping Tracy Banks get away with, which they did not. They proved that Tracy Banks planned to defame my character and commit murder by stalking and monitoring with the Ontario Police Department and every other corrupt police department in California that I documented, acting in furtherance of the same criminal conspiracy. The Ontario Police proved that Tracy Banks utilized a secret conservatorship while relying on the criminal defamation of this same department that is stalking and targeting, and they are proving why she has a secret conservatorship, why she has a sexual relationship with people that were feigning being friends with me, why she has not only a sexual relationship with federal officials who are corrupt, like Jason Isaac Fields, who have defamed my character when there is no such mental illness whatsoever. Defaming my character regarding that, which I've also shown is irrelevant to establishing mental illness, such things such as your sex life. Okay, but I want to be clear, not only did they lie about things that are insufficient to establish mental illness, I find, and your economic status, again, that in of itself is insufficient to establish mental illness, especially when the entity is engaged in surveillance. It is actually Jason Isaac Fields that has HIV. It is actually Tracy Banks that are infected with the STDs that the entity lied about me being infected with, and that those lies were used to defame my character while they're, again, engaging in what is accusing me of criminal conduct and defaming my character, relying on the defamation of the entity that is the Ontario Police that is stalking conclusively. Okay? License plate 9M7K741, I think. Let me get that one more time. They're stalking with the Ontario Police. They fly off, they're still monitoring. 9MZK741. And that's understanding the entity is one. The entity used helicopter right now, which is proof that it's going back to the bigger picture of the entity that is stalking from city to city. This is what LAPD is doing. This is what San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department is doing. This is what LA County Sheriff's Department is doing. This is why the fire departments are stalking in their helicopters. This is why Pasadena and Pomona police are engaging in the same pattern of conduct. And it's relevant to the ways in which not only the pattern of conduct, but remember, the Ontario Ontario Police prove, and that entity proves, specifically the Ontario Police, because of such of the wealth of documentation, they are engaged in specifically defaming my character, not just kidnapping, but then they would kidnap me and then throw me in the ward upon making up charges. They are doing so helping Tracy Banks, who has a secret conservatorship because she was trying to establish, manufacture mental illness, and the government helped her do that, while they are gang stalking at the same time. While you're engaged in this, which is psychological torture upon ongoing stalking as an agency and committing kidnapping by the demons whose names I just stated, and stalking with demons who are pacing. Again, this license, they're driving through the parking lot and then reversing. That's pacing, which is what the Ontario Police are doing by helicopter. License again, 9MZK741, a black, that's a female. That's a female. And it's also a black Honda 9MZK741. That's a demon. That's a psychopath that's pacing, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Doing so with the light that's used on the vehicle while they're in the engineered environment. This is what the Ontario Police are doing by flying in circles over my head. Remember, this is the criminal conduct that is putting Tracy Banks away and proving the significance of a secret conservatorship and the significance of a fraudulent marriage by Jason Isaac Fields. Neither one of them have any basis to have a conservatorship nor marriage to me. That's why that's coinciding with the simultaneous criminal defamation by the Ontario Police Department, who are also shown to be engaged in stalking and monitoring and defaming my character to help get away with stealing property, which the Ontario Police are engaged in, to help get away with sex crimes committed against me, which the Ontario Police Department are engaged in, and gang stalking is committed by the Ontario Police in furtherance of seeking to defame my character because the entity, misinformed, thought that they could gang stalk me like they've done to other people as serial killers, like the people of the state that are stalking at Wells Fargo, engaging what is gang stalking someone, and that you don't have evidence, and that will be sufficient to falsely depict you as being mentally ill. And not only is that not happening, it's going to change the way that the laws operate from here on. Now, I want to be clear, the entity defamed my character, stating that I have HIV and that Jason Isaac Fields got HIV from me. Jason Isaac Fields is a homosexual. Jason Isaac Fields is a witch, and he engages in sex rituals with groups of men and women, including Tracy Banks. And they both have HIV, and neither one of them contracted that from me. That's relevant to the very specific acts of defamation that the entity is engaging in, including stating things that I'm mentally ill, that I'm disease infected, that I'm the one that gave them the diseases that they're currently dying from. And they engage, including the Ontario Police, engage in sex rituals as a part of their worship to Satan, and they thought that that was going to help them get away with this satanic means of targeting me. And it's not, because when you document a demon, regardless of the fact that they're demon possessed and regardless of the fact that they pray to Satan, if you have hard evidence that somebody is targeting you, there is no work of Satan that's going to make that hard evidence disappear or be disregarded in court. I don't care how many demons you have. When you are doing so in the name of Jesus, by the way, there is no witchcraft that's going to rebut it. These are the delusional psychopaths that engaged in defaming my character when they are the ones that are promiscuous. They are the ones that are engaged in a promiscuous lifestyle, which is why they have HIV. And all of the allegations, all of that defamation applies to them and their with the lives that they actually live. They're the ones that have taken loans out in my name. They are the ones that engage in stealing my identity. They are the ones that have committed acts of fraud and theft against other people. They are the ones that have committed murder and tried to frame me for it. They are the ones that engaged in those acts while they were gang stalking, and the Ontario Police are directly engaged in that. That's why they are, again, engaging in criminal conduct. Very, very foolish, however, because that entire agency is going to pay for it. The entire agency. The entity is going to federal prison. Again, the demons that are going to federal prison include the demon-possessed. Remember, they're not just criminals. These are demon-possessed actors, a part of the Ontario Police, who are going to prison for engaging in what is conspiring my murder and helping Tracy Banks. Every kidnapping is in furtherance of ultimately my murder and defaming me in order to steal my money and property. Meaning they've already stolen it. They try to get away with stealing it. They try to kill me off by gang stalking. Okay. Every day that I'm documenting, it's ongoing evidence. And remember, Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, they couldn't. That's the federal government. That's the state. That's the entity that's gang stalking. That's sat in courts. There are corrupt judges that are demons as well that shared in this, because you can lie all you want about my character. I was never included in those court hearings. I was never told about property. This is a criminal conduct that the government committed altogether with me. It's a greater pattern of conduct. Okay, it's not just one bad judge. It's not just that one bad court hearing where no. It's the P.O.C. And this is the prosecution of the federal government that also never had any basis to investigate. That wasn't an investigation, that was gang stalking. They set out to target me and thought that they were going to get away with stealing my property and ruin my reputation. Oh, she's got HIV, she infected me, she infected all these people. No, Jason Isaac Fields has HIV. Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks and all of the people that Jason Isaac Fields had sex with got HIV from him. He doesn't even know who he got HIV from. And I want to be clear, that's how demons act. They accuse you of that which they are guilty of. That's why they accuse me of pedophilia. These are pedophiles. They have sex with children. Ask Tracy Banks, she knows all about it. Ask Jason Isaac Fields, he knows all about it. You can ask the Ontario Police Department. They know all about it. They're engaged in it. They are gang stalking in order to try to cover that up. These HIV-infected, mendacious demons are engaged in defaming my character regarding that which they are guilty of, that which they engaged in, and they committed it against me. Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison, and this is why you have that documented pattern. Very foolish conduct. I document it all the time, though. I've said it tons of times. The entity, there's over 200 videos as of June 2025, since the kidnapping that I was released from. Over 200 videos of the Ontario Police stalking me. And chiefly by helicopter. Okay, that's beyond any sort of coincidence. And not only that, the entity is doing so, and it's relevant to the secret conservatorship. It's relevant to the defamation by the Ontario Police and the San Bernardino County Sheriff. That's the state helping Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, who engaged in maintaining criminal acts. Every court hearing that I wasn't a part of, every piece of property, every dollar stolen, every dollar paid to these demons that are gang stalking, including those that are going to Wells Fargo. And the demons think that while they're gang stalking me because I'm documenting the defendants, I'm still going to document them, and you're subject to federal prison while I document you, and then the entity responds by stalking me by helicopter, which is putting the demons in federal prison that committed kidnapping. But that's what that was. I'm documenting demons by stalking at Wells Fargo. So the entity, again, in the face of evidence, which is going to disband you and have you in prison, engages in stalking me by helicopter because, again, it didn't stop me before and it's not stopping me now. 9MZK741 is stalking with the police in furtherance of murder. License 6XCP114, again, sex offender stalking me in concert with the Ontario Police in furtherance of murder. 9DFK437 and 7FBH528 stalking me with the Ontario Police in furtherance of murder, and so is Wells Fargo. I'm going to prosecute that company. BLUEDFV. Gang stalking with the Ontario Police, and the entity is stalking with the method of light activity. Let me show you these demons engaged in monitoring. There's a Latina female with a bun up. She's in operation for communication device. The demons are stalked with light activity at the downtown Ontario luxury apartments. Traffic is a means of ongoing light activity, and 9FMD502 stalking and monitoring with the Ontario Police. Doing so while I'm documenting the people of the state. Stalking me by helicopter never stopped the documentation. It shows the ongoing connection of the people of the state and the government that are engaging in targeting me together. And they surmise that they're going to target you and that you're going to get away with it and avoid federal prison, and you're not. You're going to federal prison while you're engaging. They're all sitting in their vehicles engaging in the pattern of conduct, doing so while the entity flies over me by helicopter, and doing so while they are stalking as a business, stalking as employees, and stalking on behalf of the city of Ontario. And this is what they're doing every day, by the way, under a fake sun. Covering it up doesn't change that, and the Ontario Police is going to have people put in prison while that conspiracy is established. As I document the people, the entity stalks by helicopter. As I am documenting the entity stalking by helicopter, the people of the state are stalking and molesting with impossible light activity. The entity is engaging in that ongoing connected pattern of harassment and terrorism together. And guess what? It's going back to the bigger picture, the pedophiles, the HIV-infected demons that stole property and money from me. And they're doing so while they're keeping the evidence of them targeting me under surveillance. So that's what you all need to know. The demons are the ones with HIV, namely, Jason Isaac Fields, who spoke very loudly about things that he knew were not true. Not only is he a liar, he's a malicious liar. And he did so because he wants to keep property that doesn't belong to him, because he doesn't want to be homeless, because he doesn't want to be in prison, and he's going to experience both. He's going to experience both. It is currently, again, let me show you the time, and this is relevant to the prosecution of the federal government. All right, because of the incompetence of the demons that they have in positions that they're unfit to be in, I'm going to prosecute you for the entity that targeted me. Any federal agent that's targeting me, that's the federal government's case. I'm going to prosecute the entirety of that federal government. Okay, and this is an entity that's engaging in that. You hired a promiscuous, mentally unwell psychopath who then targeted me because he is a low-life bum, not a man, trying to steal from a woman. He wants to be a woman. He wishes he could step into my skin and take over my life because he's a psychopath who's, again, been disillusioned with too many Disney movies, playing in too many demonic spirits. He's a psychopath and he's delusional. And that same spirit is stalking me by helicopter. He's going to prison for it. That's his co-defendant. The Ontario Police are on the payroll, all right? And they're engaged in what is targeting me on behalf of their co-defendants, and they're already surrounded by evidence, and so is the Ontario Police. It is currently, by the way, 8:38 a.m., and the entity is stalking last night like I documented, and they're doing so in those police vehicles, those license plates that I captured. They're going to federal prison. It's the same system. You have a lot of demons of the Ontario Police Department going to federal prison, and justice requires it. They're going straight to federal prison. It is currently 8:39 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, I want to hone in on these details right here. The Ontario Police targeting me as license 8MUR602 is documented, and they're doing so also on the surveillance cameras of Wells Fargo. They're gang stalking as a patron of that venue. The entity is not doing any favors to the people of the state, and it's not diverting attention away from the people of the state. The people of the state are already established as the co-conspirator to gang stalking, and it's already established that the entity, the government itself directly, is not engaging in gang stalking without the people of the state. That's the government acting vicariously. The documented entity is engaging in a pattern, however, of targeting me specifically by helicopter as I document the people of the state. The people of the state are subject to federal prison. That license plate, again, 8MUR. Hold on, that's the people of the state gang stalking at Wells Fargo. The entity is engaged in what is threatening me by stalking by helicopter. The people of the state will go to federal prison for this. It's license 8MUR602. And the demons that are stalking at the Wells Fargo, and you are stalking as an employee while the entity is engaged in surveillance where there's no warrant or probable cause for Wells Fargo, the establishment, Wells Fargo, the employees to engage in gang stalking like the evidence proves, and you will be subject to federal prison. All right, and Wells Fargo is fully exposed and vulnerable to a raid. And not only that, any gang stalking immigrants are subject to deportation. This is how you're going to apply that same policy systematically. The entities engage in that, and again, those demons are all sitting in their vehicles. As the entity engages in that, and then all the demons that are employed, they go right in monitoring as they park in the parking lot. You're going to federal prison for that. Wells Fargo has been documented for years stalking me with the Ontario Police Department, by the way. The rise and set of the fake sun at Wells Fargo, located at 240 North Euclid Avenue. Wells Fargo is monitoring American citizens. And while you're looking at them and witnessing them monitoring me, understand that your private information, they're in violation of existing federal policies. It's public information while they're engaged in surveillance, which this criminal pattern of conduct shows you. They're doing so pursuant to what is hostility to American citizens and your enforcement of your rights, because you're looking at the violence that they inflict upon an American citizen that's exposing what should be exposed. And this is how the people of the state that work for Wells Fargo and the company itself share in that criminal conduct and their sentiments toward what is your constitutional rights. And you need to know that your banking information is public information. It's public. Everything. And Wells Fargo is going to be prosecuted for that. I am no longer a patron of them, but I have been before, and they were targeting me then. And they're targeting now. All those demons, gangsters, all those license plates I documented, every single last one of them monitoring while they drive into the parking lot after the Ontario Police is engaging what is gang stalking by flying over my head by helicopter, and then entering the demons of Wells Fargo, who are engaged in monitoring all day long. In doing so, also, you're being prosecuted while the demons are gang stalking and then hopping out their vehicle as though it's an alibi, and it's not. It's proof of criminal presence and monitoring while they get on the ATM camera and pull out money at the bank or whatever they're doing while they're gang stalking. Okay? This is P.O.C. Just want to make sure that those defendants are recognized regarding targeting with the entity, the Ontario Police, and the entity is targeting with all of the people of the state. But those are the ones subject to federal prison while the entity is engaged in what is terrorizing you as you document them gang stalking with the state. That's POC. It is currently 8:43 a.m. All right, it's currently 8:51 a.m. That's the same Ontario International Airport. And Wells Fargo again at 240 North Euclid Avenue is gang stalking with the City of Ontario that's using both planes and helicopters. Again, those license plates include 9MZK741, this mentally unstable psychopath. This is a homosexual who's monitoring my vagina. Okay, also doing so while the Ontario police engage in terrorism and furtherance of psychological torture preceding murder while she's pacing in the parking lot gang stalking with the City of Ontario. License 9MZK741, license 8UTZ670. These are demons. License 6XCP114, license 9DFK437, license 7FBH528. They're engaged in ongoing criminal conduct with the people of the state that are pacing on Euclid Avenue that you hear, while the City of Ontario is surrounding the perimeter with light activity. Those are demons. Stalking with light, maintaining aerial surveillance, maintaining ongoing light activity and amplified noise. And you are also aware of all this because the entity does this while a fake sun sits over me for the duration of the day, from beginning of the end to the day, which I've also documented Wells Fargo sharing. And they're right here beside the library. They're right here beside the town square while the entity keeps a fake sun. And Wells Fargo is a sex offender keeping my vagina under surveillance. So the entity underscores that while stalking me by helicopter, and the demon-possessed employees pace in and out of the parking lot, doing so monitoring on communication devices, doing so threatening and terrorizing me, and engaging in psychological torture, sharing in that criminal conspiracy to commit murder. You need to understand that these are demons, and these demons are serial killers. They systematically target people and kill them. Okay, and they do so with regard to service. This is a satanic service that Wells Fargo is engaged in. This is P.O.C. Here goes again another plane, and it is 8:53. While I tell you the truth about demons sacrificing American citizens, and that's what Wells Fargo is engaged in. It is 8:53 a.m. P.O.C. Those third parties are inside of Wells Fargo gang stalking. And I want to be clear, you're going to federal prison while I document terrorism by the police that commit murder, and then the gang stalking courts uphold it. And you don't answer it for the no, you're going to prison. And this is targeting terrorists, and Wells Fargo is a domestic terrorist. License plate. Stalking in the path while I'm sitting at the Ontario Town Square. This Latino male, while the entity is stalking with planes, they're doing so with the Ontario International Airport. License 7D84730. License 6F57317. License plate 8RGU166, and they're stalking with downtown Ontario luxury apartments. You'll see the pictures where the entity stalking by helicopter. Downtown Ontario luxury apartments has demons with light activity on the top of their vehicles. That's the peculiarized light in the environment surrounding the perimeter. The City of Ontario, graffiti protective. They're engaged in surrounding me with flashing of light while the entity is stalking by plane and helicopter and stalking by the people of the state. They're maintaining light activity. Their vehicles are crossing path repeatedly. That's another iteration of the same conduct. They're all monitoring together, and the entity just engaged in that terrorism, stalking in a helicopter, flying in circles over me while they're all gang stalking me together. This is what they all do, centered around my vagina as well. They're all sex offenders. 2142ZC3, and Wells Fargo is engaged in criminal conduct on the job. All right, license 9EUK695 with the gang stalkers who are patrons of that venue, sharing in the federal RICO case against Wells Fargo, who's violating existing federal laws, being engaged in criminal surveillance while being a bank, and that's violating inherent rights to privacy. It's all public information, and they're keeping me under surveillance, and they're exposing what is also surveillance that's underway while you're engaged in using communication devices that the government is keeping under surveillance, having no warrant or probable cause to have access and knowledge about what's going on pursuant to your banking information, which is not actually private. The people of the state are aware of what you're doing on your phone, when you're looking at your accounts, when you're depositing, moving money around. It's all public information pursuant to surveillance, which Wells Fargo is engaged in, proven by the entity gang stalking me by helicopter and airplanes under the fake sun that remains over Wells Fargo as well. This is P.O.C. Those third parties are engaging and sharing in. The entity is sharing in terrorism while a demon flies over me again on another day by helicopter. And it's not irrelevant. It's directly relevant to the demons that were gang stalking in vehicles last night, like I documented. And what did those demons engage in? Like you're retaliating. No, you're not retaliating. You're proving that you're gang stalkers, that you're demons. And you're going to federal prison while your partner was documented. And then more of your partners come around gang stalking the same. That's what Ontario PD did last night, and it's on X. You can see it. You're going to look at the list of demons that are going to federal prison, and it includes those that are gang stalking as I document them, just like you would any stalker. But you're going to prison with regard to the pattern of conduct that's already established. You're going to this is penalized targeting by terrorists that are corrupt actors within police departments. You're going to federal prison. You're going to federal prison. That's no small thing. You're out here on the roads and the highways and in the sky space stalking somebody that you're planning to murder. And you're doing so in the name of a police department. And you do so like a fool while your co-defendants are documented. And because in your sick mind, where you have the maturity level of a 7-year-old while you're engaging in very serious federal offenses, you are not understanding how that is establishing the conspiracy and further inflicting what is the demise of your co-defendants, the people of the state who have no shelter in the first place. I've already prosecuted them. So while the Ontario police target me, you're looking at the demons that are being documented, the patrons of Wells Fargo and the employees of Wells Fargo who are going from working and being a patron to federal prison. Just like that, 7 JPM 680. Those are the demons in the parking lot when they're stalking with impossible light while they're merely parking their vehicle. Yeah, no, those are the demons that are stalking with the Ontario police stalking me by helicopter. Okay, because parking your vehicle in the Wells Fargo parking lot never includes me being accosted with light activity. That's also how you know that they're demons and that they're fully engaged in what they're satiated by. But they're going to be sitting in federal prison. They're going to be sitting in within padded walls, thinking about their satisfaction when they got 2 seconds of only in a 7-year-old's mind is that satisfying, because you're going to prison. So that's again the low maturity level of those that are engaging in conduct which makes them feel better in the second. That's because they're sick, but you're going to prison for it. So there's that imbalance, okay? And the entity's engaging in that. This is P.O.C. The entity is, again, stalking by helicopter. That's the same city of Ontario, and the Wells Fargo employees are gang stalking as well, just like they were when the Ontario police are flying in circles over me, just like they are with regard to the demons that are gang stalking and going right to the business of Wells Fargo. They're engaged in gang stalking. It's a federal RICO case, and it's inevitable, and the Ontario police are adding evidence against their co-defendant. This is, again, the misinformed system. Stalking with light activity, Ontario, City of Ontario, and the Ontario police crossing path in those vehicles, okay? I'm capturing images of what I'm narrating. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:58 a.m. This is the entity that's engaging in that, and understand that this is the entity that is in court, relying on the criminal conduct of the Ontario police while they're stalking now. They're the same ones that defame my character with regard to the criminal conduct and the conservatorship that Tracy Banks has no right whatsoever. She literally made it up with this entity that provides a secret conservatorship that defames my character. So the agency that defamed me is the agency that's stalking. Okay, the ongoing conduct that you heard last night, the demons that lined up in traffic to stalk me and my face conspicuously did so with the helicopter activity, and that's what I just documented right now. That's the entity that's listening, engaging in surveillance, in other words, with the demons who go to federal prison like the Wells Fargo employees, engaging in terrorism while a demon is terrorizing you, stalking you in helicopter, and the demons pace all around you, and then they walk into the bank and clock in at work. You're going to federal prison. The entity, while I document that, they're sitting back listening to it, and they just engage in another parade of demons crossing path in Ontario police vehicles while the Ontario police cross over by helicopter. That's what they did last night. The entity is engaging in this in the specific environment where the people of the state are engaging in ongoing ceaseless criminal conduct. And this is the entity that engages in this before they commit murder. You're going to prison for that. This is the entity that lays out that ongoing, they've laid out the template, and then understand, I'm letting you know what they're also going to do. They're going to be asking for mercy. Jason Fields isn't getting it. He's going to prison and he's not getting out. Tracy Banks is definitely going to she's going to prison. She's not getting out. Okay, she's going to expire. She's already beyond her golden years. She's over 60 and she's got way more mileage than a healthy person should. And they're all disease infected, having had sex with Jason Isaac Fields, who's infected, who knows how many, he doesn't even know. And while this demon is lying on me about what are his sins, okay, and doing so with the Ontario police, who's engaging in what is criminally defaming me in a way in which, with regard to this corrupt system, is supposed to be effective, but it's not. It's showing their criminal cooperation that is underway regarding stalking me. Okay, that's relevant to defaming my character and gang stalking me at the same time. The entity is not coincidentally stalking by helicopter again and by crossing path in traffic while I'm documenting and referring to their 7-year-old maturity level and the imbalance with regard to making yourself feel better now by engaging in, this is the entity that's targeting and you're going to prison for it. I don't know what you're gaining, but there is a list of demons that committed kidnapping and they are going to federal prison. That's axiomatic, in addition to the demons that are going to prison for targeting as I document them. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged in ongoing terrorism, stalking again by helicopter, which you've seen over and over again, under the fake sun rising and setting. And this is what they're doing yesterday evening. This is what they're doing on a daily basis. This is what they're doing when I'm entering the OVITT Family Community Library, flying over me and covering up the fake sun doesn't change the fact that they are targeting, and they are targeting with the people of the state. Maintaining methods of light activity. That's what this is inside of the parking garage. They're doing so in the engineer light. Remember, that parking garage has engineer light all over the ceiling inside. They're doing so while they're crossing path. Remember, while they're driving on the roads and the highways, while they're engaged in surveillance, that's what that is, stalking with light. While they're doing that, engineer light flies all around all the walls and on on the highways. I've shown you that on the bus of Omnitrans. I've shown you that inside of Tracy Banks' vehicle. I've shown you that inside of my car. They're stalking with light while the entity is targeting me. I've shown you that. And that's what they're doing right now, covering up the fake sun at the same venue where you've seen it rising and setting, 7 a.m. after 6 p.m. in alignment to me. That's the entity that's monitoring, while the demons that are inside of Wells Fargo right here, that's federal prison. That's federal prison, and you're going to target the terrorists who are acting with, again, Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields. The ones that defame my character stating that I have HIV when Jason Isaac Fields is the one that has HIV. Okay? And his sex partner, Tracy Banks, if she hasn't been checked already, they're the ones engaged in sex rituals and gay sex while they're summoning up demonic spirits, which is why they're mentally ill and delusional psychopaths. Engaged in defaming me and relying on the defamation of the Ontario police who are stalking. Proven stalking. And they're also engaged in psychological torture while engaging in defamation on paper, repeatedly kidnapping, which is why the list of kidnappers that you see on X and that you see on the YouTube post, and you see on video, because I documented every kidnapping, they're going to prison. They're going to federal prison because they're committing kidnapping. And this is light activity. This is relevant to Title 18. She's in engineered light. They're surrounding with light activity around the perimeter. The City of Ontario is maintaining light activity through the municipality, the vehicles of the municipality. The entity is engaged in ongoing terrorism and stalking by helicopter. The more that I document, the more that psychopaths engage in it. You have a pattern of conduct of targeting with the people of the state. Or the entity, while you're documenting the people of the state, the entity engages in more terrorizing acts such as stalking you specifically, which is proven through that specific environment, and the behavioral pattern of those in that specific environment, stalking with light. All right? Covering up the fake sun is the evidence of you keeping the evidence under surveillance. It's never going to remove from the record the fake sun that's already here before 8 o'clock in the morning and after 7 o'clock in the evening. And also the fake moon also over this same Ontario Town Square when I exit that library, the OVITT Family Community Library. That's P.O.C. All right, it's currently, again, 9:03 a.m. Alrighty, I'm capturing the entity that's engaged in that ongoing pattern. You're going to pay attention to what they did last night. They did the same exact thing. The more that I document, the more that the Ontario police cross path. That's conspicuous stalking as opposed to what they're typically doing, flying around the perimeter, monitoring me while the people of the state are stalking with light, monitoring while the people of the state are stalking with amplified noise, and the Ontario International Airport maintains commercial planes over me, monitoring while they're around the perimeter, stalking with light activity, like what the City of Ontario maintains. And the entity does so as I document. That's what you witnessed last night. The Ontario police crossing path in more and more police vehicles while they're monitoring the evidence. The Ontario police crossing path more and more by helicopter while I'm documenting their partners who are going to prison. That white man with the sandy blonde mustache is going to federal prison. And then his partners, very much misinformed about how terrorism is going to be prosecuted, necessarily putting terrorists who are a part of the corrupt executive branch, which is how you're being kidnapped in the first place, which is a threat to your life and well-being. You're going to put those terrorists that are of corrupt law enforcement agencies in prison. And those misinformed demons engaged in more and more of that conspicuous stalking, which is what I captured in video and in images and on podcast last night. That's the same pattern of conduct by psychopaths that are stalking again. This level of evidence speaking to the specific environment, which doesn't change when the entity is monitoring the evidence and covering up the fake sun that's already documented rising and setting over me. It's never going to be removed, ever. It's not going to be forgotten. And it's also relevant that these demons have HIV. It's not just Jason Isaac Fields. These are demons that engage in sex rituals together. Much of these demons are already infected with sexually transmitted diseases that are going to kill them. They're going to drop dead based on the STDs that they have because they actually are deceived by Satan thinking that they were going to triumph over me spiritually, which is, again, thinking that I was just going to drop dead through some witchcraft that they were conjuring up while they engage in sex rituals. And they engage in sex rituals with people that have HIV like Jason Isaac Fields. And it's not just the people of the state in relevant position in Ontario. It's the, first of all, it's the state of California, but also the demons that are monitoring, engaged in this gang stalking, targeting surveillance on YouTube. Okay, the entity that's engaging in that and have had sex with Jason Isaac Fields, who has HIV, who defame my character and try to say that I have HIV when he's been having anal sex and oral sex and vaginal sex with Tracy Banks for years. Okay, who has a traffic record that nobody can be sure of. This is the entity, and they're both streetwalkers. And I'm not just calling out names. This is true. They both engage in sex for money. They both have a high body count, if you're aware of that vernacular, meaning a high level of promiscuity. They couldn't even narrow down who they got an STD from if they tried. okay? And that's because of the spirit that's on them. They're Jezebel spirits. They're both whores. Both of them are streetwalkers, and that's relevant to the ways in which they defame my character. And so did the Ontario police, who are stalking. The Ontario police is engaged in what is receiving money that belongs to me while they're stalking me. The Ontario police engaged in kidnapping me while they're stalking. That's not a lawful arrest, and it's certainly not a lawful arrest, not only while you're gang stalking, but it's not a lawful arrest while you you just made that up. You made up a charge, and then you're just going to arrest. That's a kidnapping. It's not a false imprisonment. It's not merely an assault and battery. They're doing it upon the federal group stalking and monitoring, and they do that with the people of the state. The demons that are gang stalking at Wells Fargo, they engage in criminal summoning, calling the police, making it up, and those demons that are stalking arrive and engage in kidnapping. That's what they did with the OVITT Family Community Library on June 16, 2022. The Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. It's more than the demons that I have listed on X right now. Those are the kidnappers as of 2025. There is a laundry list of demons that are going to federal prison, and they're going to federal prison while the evidence is providing what is surefire, conclusive evidence regarding the criminality pursuant to putting hands on me in the first place, okay? While I've been doing this, documenting, and then they committed kidnappings, okay? The entities engage in that because of the intent to obstruct justice, while promiscuous streetwalkers who are HIV infected, like Jason Isaac Fields, a corrupt federal official, engaged in because he's a bum and wants to steal from a woman, wants to steal a woman's money, wants to steal a woman's property with his sex partner over 60 years old, engaging in what is defaming my character in court when I'm not there, when I have no idea about the property, because he is a low-life scumbag lying about STDs that he has. He's the one with HIV. He's the one going around like a serial killer infecting people because he's an angry, lower being. Angry about his decisions, and that's what's stealing from me, and that's what is again gang stalking me and targeting me with the Ontario Police. Jason Fields is going to prison for what the Ontario Police Department are doing with him as a co-conspirator to murder. And they're doing it while the Ontario police are targeting with the gang stalkers of Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue. The more that I document, which the pattern of conduct demonstrates, you're going to prosecute this conspiracy regarding targeting and furtherance of murder in that same manner. The conspiracy is also established by the evidence. You can look at it regardless of what I've already shown you with the P.O.C. As you witness me document, what you always hear on the podcast and what you always witness as I document, the entity stalking by helicopter, because that's the entity that is threatening you as you are engaged in documentation while they are indeed engaged in surveillance. That is putting license 9MZK741, third parties like that who are threatening you, relying on that conduct of the state to put them in federal prison. That's the entity that's engaged in that conspiracy to target together and obstruct justice together. You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. That's what the Ontario Police Department did last night. That's what they were doing right now. Okay? And that's putting the co-defendants, the people of the state, in federal prison. The entity is very much misinformed. They're highly unintelligent. These are demons that rely on their promiscuity, and they rely on witchcraft. They've been engaged in watching too many Disney movies and living in too many illusions, and they cannot recognize and appreciate reality and hard facts. The conspiracy to target is already established. The facts proving that you're targeting, and it's also common sense. A 7-year-old at that same immature level could also recognize all of the wealth of evidence when you're looking at ongoing stalking and targeting with helicopter, this public nuisance that I'm subject to, in other words, if you want to put it in those terms, is relevant to a pattern of conduct. And not only that, the entity is doing so in an unmistakable environment where you're understanding that this public nuisance is committed by those who are demons. The mentally ill are a part of the Ontario Police Department, which is going to be disbanded because they've engaged in years of kidnapping me to help thieves like Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields get away with stealing from me, and judges that received my money and permitted this criminal conduct that they knew very well was going on, and they didn't stop it because they're a part of it, and they wanted to get away with stealing from me, and they were counting on me being dead, and I'm not going anywhere. The Ontario Police is being disbanded, and every gang stalking demon, stalking in helicopters, stalking in commercial planes, stalking under the fake sun, bearing weapons, wearing a badge, using a county-issued vehicle, you're going to prison. They're doing so threatening your life. Those demons are at any moment, based on the unlawful threat to the target individual, based on that psychological torture, which is the purpose of stalking as police officers. The entity engaged in this, but they never anticipated that they would be prosecuted for it or that it would be proven. But it is. And the penalty is prison. Okay? You're looking at the entity engaging more of it as I document it in real time, which is relevant to the entity that's going to be committed. It's relevant to their mind state while they are demonstrating severe mental instability. And you're also mentally ill when you are falsely depicting the character of somebody else, accusing them of things that you have done. You're the one with HIV. You're the one that's a promiscuous streetwalker. You're the one that's engaged in what is stealing my identity. You're the one that's engaged in stealing from me. And that's what the entity is engaged in accusing me of, and I have committed no such crimes. Not only that, it's not even in my history. It's not even characteristic of me. And by the way, those demons know that as well. They're envious of me, and they try to put mud all over my name, and that includes the Ontario Police Department. They're going to federal prison because of all of that. They didn't lie as individuals or as officials. C. Torres didn't lie as an individual. Tracy Banks didn't lie as an individual on May 29, 2025. That was the entity putting it in paper, pursuant to a pattern of conduct. You're going to prison. That agency is being disbanded. It is currently, by the way, 9:11 a.m. That's the entity that engages in that pattern over and over and over again. And that entity is subject to federal prison. That entity is subject to being shut down as a terrorist organization, as a national security threat. That's the airport. That's the fire department. That's the police department. And this is the entity that's still monitoring right now. That's the entity that's still conspiring murder, no matter how much you are exposing it or blowing the whistle to the federal government. And that is relevant. They're going to face justice for it, but this is for you to witness, because this is informing federal legislation. When you are targeting terrorists in this country, the entity is engaging in this conduct, and you're going to federal prison. That's exactly why you're going to federal prison, especially when you're wearing a badge. Oh, you're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. There's no negotiating either. You're going to federal prison. It's currently 9:11 a.m. The Ontario Police Department does so with regard to what is criminally defaming me while stalking, stealing from me while stalking, kidnapping me while stalking. That's what that means. When you're stalking, then that's not a lawful arrest, and neither is it merely a false arrest. It's malicious. It's a kidnapping. And that's already on the record. So the entity is doing so, and they engaged in the helicopter activity and then crossing path on Euclid Avenue. That was in concert. That's what they did last night. You don't have any coincidences. It's a P.O.C. While they're engaged in surveillance, you're going to prison. Just pay attention to that. While you are a 7-year-old within your mind, and it makes you feel good in the moment right now, Satan, but tomorrow you're going to prison for it. And everyone is going to witness, and they're going to listen to the warning that you did not take heed of. You're like a 7-year-old. I told you this last night, and I'm telling you this again on the next day while you're engaged in that same pattern of conduct, and you're going to prison for it. It is currently, again, 9:12 a.m. Tracy Banks and Jason Fields are going to federal prison. Okay, their co-defendants are way out of control, and they hired the wrong demons. Those demons don't even know what to do, don't know how to not look like they're not targeting, not look like they're engaged in the conspiracy to target me. They don't know what else to do because they are psychopaths, because their mental illness is of that condition. These are demons. They are demon possessed. And that's also why the Ontario Police Department needs to be disbanded. They are entirely infected. It is currently, again, 9:13 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, monitoring while the uploads are going onto the internet. This is the ongoing obsessive campaign. They engage in the conduct as though they're being gangster. The Ontario Department's engaged in criminal summoning with them at Wells Fargo, where they're stalking by helicopter. That's Wells Fargo engaged in criminal summoning with the police. And who is engaged in pulling out shovels like they're engaging in something? The city of Ontario, that's always stalking with light. So that's just the demons of the Ontario Police Department creating peculiarized light. License 9TNN121, 9NAT873, 9FWZ577, EG20G63, stalking in the path, license plate, and they're doing so with the Ontario Police Department, okay? The entity is doing so at 240 North Euclid Avenue. License NZ246, handicap, is stalking with the police while they drive by, and the Ontario Police are in the middle of the intersection maintaining light activity. 9KET947 and BLUEDEV, that's been engaged in surveillance for years. I documented that, not years, but for a prolonged period, I've been documenting, I documented them hours ago. 9MRF976, KNYKID2. And the Ontario Police are monitoring the evidence as it's being uploaded, as they engage in terrorism, stalking me by helicopter. Then they sit around trying to slow down the ability to upload it to the internet. 7AMX179, 8MHJ468, 7ZTS159. That's the same knowledge that they share while they're stalking in traffic, like I documented last night, flying over me by helicopter, like I documented, as they engage in it. And the entities engaged in criminal summoning. License 9NYK650, 9PKN210, and Wells Fargo, located at 240 North Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California. All right, Ontario Police engaged in criminal summoning. Let me go ahead and get this. License. This is federal prison. Getting in the middle of the intersection with light activity on the vehicles. These are the demons that are engaged in criminal surveillance. They're doing so under the fake sun. The fake sun is at the 330 North Euclid Avenue. They call it police training, July 14th, 2025. At 7:45, you have A. Morris over here that's gang stalking. A. Morris is going to prison, and she knows that I published the video of her gang stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library yesterday. Just like on that day, in January 2022, she showed up engaged in gang stalking with the OVITT Family Community Library, while I was on that day engaged in what is documenting, publishing evidence concerning her, and she showed the kidnapping she committed in September 2020. So she engages on that day while she's monitoring, engages in what is arriving at the OVITT, where I'm engaged in using the internet. Just like yesterday, she's here at the intersection stalking. 7XCP662, City of Ontario, stalking with police lights. That's light activity. 1644200, vehicle 1052, Ontario Police. That's A. Morris, stalking in the path. These are psychopaths, cheesing, coking and joking while they're engaged in criminal activity. Those are psychopaths. They're doing it at the intersection of C Street and Euclid Avenue, where the entity is documented under the fake sun rising and setting. And they're doing so while I'm engaged in uploading my evidence onto the video of the internet. And the people of the state and the City of Ontario are sharing in that while they're trying to engage in what is slowing down the internet. This is federal stalking. License plate 1591701, vehicle 1025. And the Ontario Police Department are demons who exhibit mental illness not only by stalking as an agency, stalking with helicopters, stalking under a fake sun and with engineer light, using police vehicles while they're engaging in demonic conduct with that engineer light under the guise of being a police officer and having a police vehicle. That's psychopathic. They're also doing so while they're sitting there laughing and coking and joking while they're actually here stalking and monitoring me. I'm the focus. This is a psychopathic the psychopathic disorder that they're demonstrating while they're engaging in that P.O.C. It's currently 9:30 a.m. I'm turning on my other phone because I'm going to document them in images. I'm going to document in video. A. Morris is going to prison. This is pursuant to the surveillance that she was engaged in. I just published that video yesterday. So look at what's published on YouTube. It's January 30th, January 31st. It's the end of January. She's gang stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library under the 3:47 p.m. fake sun. The Ontario Police in July of 2025, this same street, 6:45 a.m. That's a P.O.C. right there. They're stalking as an agency, and she's engaged in monitoring me. And on the day that I'm publishing evidence, she arrives at the library and engages in what is expelling me from that venue that's engaged in gang stalking. Okay, so in the same way as I publish evidence about her going to prison, it's not a coincidence in this specific environment. The entity just got through flying circles over my head by helicopter, and then they're engaged in criminal summoning with regard to monitoring that evidence. This is indeed the criminal summoning, the federal tactic of monitoring that evidence. And it's also relevant. Remember what the ordinary target individual is experiencing? That's relevant to that P.O.C. So I'm going to capture this right now in video, and it is currently 9:31 a.m. This is psychopathic conduct, so I'm going to capture the video and the video and podcast at the same time. All right, that is again the license plate that I'm documenting, license 7XCP662. This is conversation of audible activity. That's A. Morris. She's going to prison September 25th, 2020. This is relevant to the evidence that the entity knows is published on the internet regarding 2022. On that day in 2022, I referred to that same pattern. I addressed this on the podcast, okay? She's monitoring, and she's specifically here based on what I documented about her on the internet. 1591701, vehicle 1025. The entity just got through stalking by helicopter. This is light activity in the path while I'm using the Ontario Wi-Fi and the people of the state are stalking. This is where you already know the fake sun is setting right here where I'm documenting walking out of the library, and this is where the fake sun is rising while I'm right here, and they call it police training. This is the same strip of street. Covering up the fake sun is not changing. This is called stalking with light, which is what the evidence of the fake sun proves. This is the Ontario Police that's going to be disbanded, and they're going to prison. All right, again, that's 1591701. A. Morris, she committed kidnapping in 2020. She's going to prison, and license 1644200, and they are here engaged in criminal summoning. They're gang stalking under the guise of engaging in something that has to do with the environment, the location where they're at. Spectrum has been engaged in stalking with light activity while the Ontario Police were flying in circles. This is another iteration of criminal presence. Pursuant to knowledge, specific knowledge, that's why A. Morris in particular, because I published her engaged in kidnapping and then harassment at the OVITT Family Community Library. This is P.O.C. I just uploaded all that evidence onto the Google Drive where they commit the criminal conduct, that's stalking with light activity at the end. They're surrounding the perimeter, okay? They're demons, and they're all going to prison. Okay, she's going to prison for the 2020 kidnapping that she committed while the entity feigned having a warrant in a fake case pursuant to criminal defamation. This is a psychopath, both of them, and they're getting locked up, okay? They're cheesing, and these are demons that are stalking with light every day. Pulling up something out of the street, surrounded with the municipality vehicles, it's the same pattern of conduct where the fake sun rising and setting right here on Euclid Avenue. And then you're remembering that it's at the Fontana Lewis Library, where Aquanetta Warren, just like Paul Leon, is engaged in state surveillance. And this is the department that's getting disbanded. This is the department that defamed with Jason Isaac Field and defamed with Tracy Banks. This is the department that's demon-possessed, just like Tracy Banks is. She's a psychopath, and it's the same spirit shared by this. And you're stalking with weapons. You're stalking while representing an agency. You're going to prison for that. For all of the above, they're engaged in federal stalking right now. This is the elements of monitoring in concert with the people of the state. And Wells Fargo is sharing in that, okay? Everybody else is, but I'm documenting Wells Fargo while the entities surrounding at the perimeter. All right, this is occurring as they're targeting me, and as I publish that evidence, this is what's happening. This is the pattern of conduct. It's P.O.C. It's currently, by the way, 9:34 a.m. The federal government's going to be prosecuted for the criminal conduct that the city of Ontario, the state of California, is committing. Okay, so it's more than just Ontario PD. But they're going to be, again, a template for understanding how you're going to target terrorists in this country. They're stalking day and night in helicopter, and look at them smiling and coking and joking like nothing's happened. Those are the psychopaths that commit murder, that engage in kidnapping like they have. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, I'm capturing that video. You can hear it. It's 9:34 a.m. I'm going to upload this to the internet. This is P.O.C. There's a city event today?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why you guys are out surrounding the perimeter right now?
We're blocking off traffic so nobody can drive through here.
What's the event?
It's a food festival.
Oh, okay, so that's criminal summoning. You're A. Morris, right?
Yes, I am.
What's your name?
Corporal Obledo.
Corporal Obledo?
Robledo.
Robledo. Oh yeah, she committed kidnapping with Corporal Kemp. Okay, they're both going to prison. Do you want to provide your badge number? Because I have hers. Do you want to provide yours?
Do you need it?
Yeah, I do.
No, she has a throat back there. And I mean,
Is that a no? That's a federal charge for obstruction while they're monitoring. Is that a no?
You need my badge number?
I did ask for that, yeah.
What?
Because it's public information, is it not?
Sure is. I was just wondering if there's something.
Because I would like to have it, please.
Sure, it's 80422.
Thank you. 80422?
Yes.
Corporal Robledo and A. Morris are going to federal prison, and they're engaged in criminal summoning. All right, the entity is engaged in criminal surveillance, and they are surrounding the perimeter, regardless of what. Remember, they called the Ontario Montclair School District an event as well, and the entity was gang stalking in the same exact manner. And that morning, you saw the fake sun that was not covered up. They are surrounding the perimeter with light activity, and the timing is relevant to what I'm uploading on the internet. They're going to federal prison for gang stalking as corrupt police officers engaging in the system of surveillance with the city of Ontario. This is the perimeter. Spectrum was already here while the entity was going crazy, flying over me by helicopter. So they're adding to that light activity, and having an event is the same presence, criminal summoning. All right, on the opposite side of Holt, that's where I've documented the fake sun, Chino Police and Upland Police and San Bernardino County stalking, while the fake sun remains on this same street. This is all evidence. They're calling an event. The reason for, you can call it whatever you want. You're giving birth to a baby in the middle of the intersection. They have to block off everything and surround, and so that nobody gets it. Have the fire trucks and ambulance. You can call it's criminal summoning in the specific environment. It's surveillance, and they're going to prison. Corporal Kemp and A. Morris are going to federal prison. The entity is being disbanded. This is surveillance while they're monitoring what I was uploading on the internet. That's P.O.C. All right, documenting. This is the entity that's engaged in that. These are the tactics where the entity is intimidating people while they kidnap them. This is what A. Morris did, and she thought there weren't going to be any consequences. She's going to prison. And she set up and watched me upload, is aware of what I'm uploading. There's no coincidence with regard to the demons that are in the path, that where they're engaged in, again, making them feel better. This is what I was talking about. There's 7-year-olds in the mind. It makes her feel better as a demon to come around, and what she's actually doing in substance is monitoring. And she's monitoring in particular in the specific environment with knowledge that I published video yesterday pertaining to her gang stalking me at the OVITT Family Community Library on the same day in 2022 when I was that day uploading evidence of her kidnapping at the Economy Inn, where I'm documenting this agency gang stalking under a fake sun by helicopter and by police department. The entity stalking by helicopter at 6 p.m. at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. The entity stalking by criminal summoning at 9:45 in the morning. Guess what's there over me? The fake sun for the duration of the day. And that's just one example of how I'm going to prosecute that whole agency. It's being disbanded, and criminal summoning is the outward demonstration of severe mental illness. They're highly malicious, maniacal psychopaths who have engaged in defamation like A. Morris. She's going to federal prison. This is impunity. All right, that's P.O.C. It's currently 9:38 a.m. Okay, that's amplified plane activity to freeze my phone while I'm uploading the details pertaining to the Ontario police that are engaged in criminal summoning surrounding with light activity, while they are stalking and doing so, stalking in the path, and they're gang stalking with Wells Fargo, they're gang stalking with the City of Ontario, the employees that are using city-issued vehicles to engage in the elements of monitoring, surveilling on the internet, surveilling and keeping my device under surveillance with regard to evidence of them conspiring my murder. That is gang stalking. The Ontario International Airport is doing that at 9:59 a.m. with the sex offenders that engage in what is the bathroom monitoring on their behalf. They stalk in bathrooms and all around the bathrooms as well. And they're doing so while having their kids running all around, while the entity is blasting music, while the entity is amplifying what is all manner of noise, while they're monitoring what I am uploading. They're all focused on me. And you know that because you've seen the fake scent. So that's how you know that they're all demons and they're all actually focused on me. The Ontario police engaged in this cowardice, and then they honed in really quickly and surrounded with light activity after they engaged in the campaign with the helicopter activity, and after I engaged in what is reminding you about the warning that they got. These are 7-year-olds who are wearing police uniforms and wearing guns. Corporal Kemp's going to prison, but Corporal Robledo, that's a psychopath, and she's a homosexual that's keeping my vagina under surveillance. That's what she actually is engaged in, and she's stalking pursuant to specific timing when I turned on the Ontario Wi-Fi and began uploading. The entity is doing so under the we're here, but you can, like I said, you can call it whatever you want. They call everything relevant to what is nothing other than a guise for the pattern of conduct. All right, and they're doing so while they're trying to freeze what I'm going to upload in the first place. The clock is a means of audible activity. The entity's sounding train activity is audible activity. This is why the entity is merely trying to slow down what it's not ultimately, which is, again, A. Morris, Corporal and Robledo, they're going to federal prison. That's not slowing that down. But these are demons that are monitoring, and the Ontario International Airport is engaging in surveillance, flying over immediately while I'm in operation on my phone, publishing the videos of this same department that is claiming we're here providing what is services as a department pertaining to an event, while I'm documenting them gang stalking. What the entity is doing with stalking me by helicopter is directly relevant to what they're doing while the same elements of monitoring are underway, and they're claiming to be doing it in the name of something else. It is all under the same a guise of what's supposed to be law enforcement, but you're clearly not engaged in law enforcement when I have a body of evidence showing that you're targeting me, that I'm your focus, and that you're also engaged in what is stalking in the most absurd ways, such as wearing that uniform and representing that agency, and you're engaged in criminal activity. And everything that the Ontario Police Department is engaging in is relevant to that. And this is the reason for the public corruption that's happening in Ontario, California, and this is what actual law enforcement agencies in California are engaged in, and it's surveillance and it's also demonic. Okay, the airport is flying over, not the airport, but the commercial airline representing the entity is flying over in order to freeze. Specifically, the video that's going to be published right now is the video of the Ontario police stalking by helicopter today, September 13, 2025 at 8:21 and 20 seconds. That plane activity is what creates, in the same way that this demon, the African American, he looks like he's an African or maybe Haitian or maybe Jamaican. He's engaged in gang stalking on a daily basis systematically at the Ontario Town Square. He's blasting music, which is audible activity, also affecting the device, freezing it. While a bunch of demons are together pacing all around, they're all monitoring an engineer light. They're all engaged. These are the demon possessed. They're all engaged in a campaign. Merely, their only effort is they're trying to slow down. They can't stop. It's going on the internet. So all they do is they do all this, and it's all going on the internet. But this is what the demon possessed do. These are the entities that are violent sex offenders. They're pedophiles, they're kidnappers, they're serial killers. They're also stalkers, and they are engaging in what is, and they're also thieves. But they're engaging in this while all that they can do is, but it's evidence to you knowing the significance of what's happening in the environment and surveillance that's happening on devices. But the bigger picture, this is why I'm looking, this is child's play. You're trying to slow down, and while you're doing that, I'm documenting, and it's ongoing evidence of the criminal pattern of conduct that you are in fact engaging in, and it's still going on the internet, and you are proven beyond a reasonable doubt to engaging in exactly what the allegations and the evidence establishes. But those are, again, the 7-year-old mindset. That's what stalking, wearing police uniforms, using police vehicles, and like you see in the video that I'm publishing, using a helicopter to engage in what is threatening me and terrorizing and intimidation tactics while I'm documenting the people of the state. And I'm documenting the people of the state engaging in that with that entity that uses helicopter, pulls out a helicopter to stalk me while I'm documenting them. Okay, and it's directly relevant. The people of the state that I'm documenting when the entity is stalking by helicopter. And that entity is still targeting even when you don't physically see somebody walking or driving or present in front of me, and the entity is stalking me by helicopter. This is what the entity, they're 7-year-olds. I'm prosecuting a bunch of children who are violent, maniacal psychopaths. But the mindset is the mind of a 7-year-old. And that's also a threat. Okay, but I just want to prosecute. I just want to point that out. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C. while the evidence is being published, and I want to document. I captured the video of A. Morris and Corporal Robledo. They're both going to federal prison. They're going to federal prison just like their partners that committed kidnapping. Okay, they're all acting in furtherance of murder. The entity is engaging in this, and as I documented those videos, I went right back toward the town square. The moment that I turned on, the Wi-Fi was already on. The moment that I, began uploading, the entity immediately sounds sirens. So you're listening to me ask them regarding while they're monitoring. Remember, the criminal conduct is literally them being present in the path. You're going to prison for that. But I'm documenting psychopaths whose fate is already sealed, and this is an ongoing open investigation, a public investigation regarding the malice of the demon-possessed, because you need to understand the illusion that Satan presents to you, and also how you're going to, with regard to laws and policies that exist regarding a very real threat in this country, the prosecution and the targeting of terrorists. So while I'm speaking to them and they're talking about, oh, we're here for this, that, and this, I walk to the opposite end, and the entity is, they're monitoring right now. The entity is sounding sirens at the same time that I began uploading that audio. And that's the entity, that's the city of Ontario, that's pulling up stuff, pulling out barriers to block traffic, surrounding with their light activity. All they're doing is monitoring me. They can pick any moment to engage in what they claim to be the purpose for the event. They can do that at any moment. And the moment that they did that was when I turned on the Ontario Wi-Fi radio, to my Wi-Fi radio, to log onto the Ontario Wi-Fi network to begin uploading. And these are the cowards that are thinking, and you're not thinking that. Nobody is thinking that the Ontario police are strong and they're mighty and they're standing up as demons who are, again, they're not defying anything. A. Morris and Robledo are going to prison. Straight up, they're going to prison, okay? And so is Jason Fields and Tracy Banks. This is a domino effect. And it's already secure. I'm going to let you know that right now. They're going to federal prison. The entity engaged in this conduct, which you all witnessed, stalking by helicopter, harassment, terrorism, a public nuisance on the surface, but they're engaged in the ongoing targeting. I have years of evidence of it, and they're engaging in that. And this is what the entity is doing while they're concerned about the public. The public is looking at you, monitoring my vagina. The public is aware that you're psychopaths, as I've given a psychological breakdown regarding the clearly demented behavior that they engage in front of you. These are delusional psychopaths. This is the spirit of Satan, okay? Very shallow, very limited, okay? Very childish, very sophomoric, okay? While also wanting to be in positions of authority, wanting to be in control. They don't even control their sick minds. They can't even control their genitalia. Satan runs their genitalia. That's why they have such a high, we'll just say freeway entrance, okay? A high level of freeway entrance and exits, okay? The entities engaging in that, and I mean though, those are Jezebel spirits that are on the Ontario Police. This is demon possession. It's not different from Tracy, Jason Isaac Fields, and the demons of the Ontario Police. This is a spirit operating uniformly over everyone. This is a prosecution regarding public corruption. The demons that are a part of the airport, the fire department, the police department, the municipality, the civilian population. That's how you're going to prosecute based on the status. The immigrants. You're going to prosecute based on status, based on the impropriety, based on the illegality. But it is uniform demon possession. Okay? It is 10:06 a.m. The entity is maintaining plane activity as I document them monitoring on my device, and they're still monitoring on my device while they maintain plane after plane after plane. Okay? They initially did it while they were trying to slow down publishing a video captured at 8:21:20. By the way, the investigation regarding targeting by the Ontario International Airport is ongoing evidence that proves that A. Morris and Corporal Robledo are gang stalking, and they're engaged in the criminal conduct and targeting of the Ontario International Airport that maintains no arrivals and departures from 2500 Airport Drive while they are in my face. By monitoring, that conversation is criminal activity by that department while they are engaged in the elements of monitoring, exhibiting severe mental illness, that level of malice, and the Ontario International Airport's criminal engagement in the P.O.C. is also prosecuting that department. But I'll digress from there. The entity is already surrounded with evidence. That's malice while you're conspiring my murder, doing so under the guise of the duties or the activities related to being a police officer. But these are demons engaging in surveillance, conspiring murder, and that conspiracy has been blown wide open, and their way in which they're engaging in that failed and fully exposed criminal endeavor is also in real time being published online. And the entity that engages in criminal conduct with them is prosecuting the Ontario Police. The entity that is not forgotten, you just witnessed them stalking by helicopter, and then they pull up, oh yeah, this is about the program we're having later today. Like all of this is in a vacuum. There's that happening, and then we're doing this over here, and that's legitimate. That has nothing to do with that. Okay, the fake sunrise and fun. That's one thing, but that has nothing to do with what we're doing right now. Like that's separate. Okay, and so we're just gonna like that. That's the entity in an alternate universe. Okay, there's a documented systematic pattern of conduct. And the entity is engaging in what is exposing itself. This is the agency that is, as a matter of justice and as a matter of protection of the public, being disbanded. Demons like Corporal Robledo and A. Morris, stalking in the specific environment, conspicuous stalking, and kidnapping, which is what A. Morris represents and Robledo represent, both going to federal prison. Both of them. For that, okay? You're engaged in conspiracy to murder. You're doing so, engaging in a psychological torture, very malicious in doing so. And while you're in that position, having taken that oath, representing that agency, exercising authority maliciously that you don't actually have, but you're exercising it maliciously and in a corrupt manner, that is an unlawful threat to the life and physical safety of American citizens. And it's not enough that you lose your job or that you're subject to some hearing while you have an opportunity. No, you're not keeping that job. You're being shown to be a terrorist, and you don't have any due process rights, and you're also going to federal prison. That is how terrorism, because that's what that is. Stalking, monitoring police officers are domestic terrorists who are acting in a manner antithetical to the Constitution, to the oath that they take. And they're doing that for a reason, to get away with murder, to get away with kidnapping. You're going to federal prison. Those two demons, again, Corporal Robledo didn't commit kidnapping personally. She committed kidnapping as an entity. Yes, she did. All of them did. Wells Fargo committed a kidnapping. Starbucks committed a kidnapping, literally, because they engaged in criminal summoning, and Ocean, Patty, Amelia, all of them shared in that. They're going to prison for that. But understand that this is an entity. The group itself committed a kidnapping. The state of California committed multiple kidnappings. So that's what I'm getting to. Corporal Robledo represents those of terrorist organizations who are going to federal prison for stalking in the path. You're not going to terrorize an American citizen in their face. You're not going to threaten them expressly or impliedly in their face while you're bearing weapons, wearing badges, representing an agency as though you have the right to under the. No, you don't. You're out of your mind. You're out of your rabbit hair mind. You're going to prison for that. That's the entity that's engaging in domestic terrorism. That's what Corporal Robledo represents. I've documented the agency under the fake sun stalking me day and night all over the place, including using helicopters. They're going to prison. And A. Morris represents the demons that committed kidnapping, criminal summoning, having nothing to do with execution of the duties of an officer. All right, that they are sworn to uphold. No. You're kidnapping, and that malicious iteration of the P.O.C., you're going to prison for that as well. The entity is engaging in this, and they're doing so while I am publishing the video online, while they're keeping that under surveillance, because that's actually what the Ontario police are engaged in. The evidence already shows that I am the focal point, and that doesn't change. Covering up the fake sun certainly does not change that. That is the evidence of the demons in the demonic environment keeping me under surveillance, which is the original allegation at the outset. Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. This is federal stalking. All right, federal stalking underway by the police. They do so in order to commit murder. You're going to federal prison while you're wearing those uniforms, representing that agency, engaging in that pattern of conduct while in that position. You're going to prison. Okay, it is 10:11 a.m. The entity is monitoring while you hear the train activity, while you hear the plane activity, while you hear the music, even while you hear me speaking, they're monitoring, which is all forms of audible activity. And the entity, the Ontario police, are doing what Graffiti Protective is engaging in, doing what Spectrum is engaging in, doing what the city of Ontario is doing every single day, doing what the people of the state are doing, stalking with impossible light under the fake sun on this street that's rising in alignment to me, where I sleep and wake up, and stalking under the fake sun on this street in alignment to me, where I walk out of the OVITT Family Community Library. That's where they're engaging in the same pattern of conduct, stalking, surrounding the perimeter with light activity. And those lights are used on police vehicles. They're going to prison. This is a malicious iteration. They do the same thing when they're doing a DUI check, it's P.O.C. They're doing the same thing when it's a traffic stop, it's P.O.C. They're doing the same thing like A. Casada is doing under the fake sun. Nobody forgot about that. That wasn't a health check. The fire department and AMR, those are vehicle lights. That's criminal summoning. It's the same P.O.C. You're going to federal prison. Everybody sees Satan, and Satan is going to be put in federal prison where he's engaged in what is a malicious means of terrorism in the United States. You're going to federal prison. And I told them before, they're engaged in ongoing a contest of authority, which, again, you're dealing with demons. You're dealing with children. And so that's fine, but it's going to inform policy. This is going to be surrounded. This is how you behave. This is how it's informing federal policy, so that you are not surprised, and so that the law is equipped to deal with this level of a threat to American citizens in the country. So they're surrounding right now. This is a terrorizing threat. It's a threat to this is not only a terrorizing threat, this is the entity that committed kidnapping. And it doesn't matter that they're stating we're here because X, Y, and Z. It's criminal conduct. It's surveillance, period. And I've already been subject to them lying about why they're putting hands on me, lying about what I committed. It doesn't matter what you claim. It's the P.O.C. You don't have any warrant or probable cause to even be present. That's what the specific environment Proves. And the specific environment remains while the demon possessed are still gang stalking and the fake son is covered up. Criminal surveillance is ceaseless. You're going to prison. All right, it's currently 10:13 a.m. and what you will see is, well, I'm going to publish this after I publish this. I'm going to publish this podcast after I publish this video, but I'm publishing the video right now at 10:13 a.m. The video that is published, that is captured of this same department claiming that they're here for a program today. There is indeed a program going on at the Ontario Town Square, and it's gang stalking. Gang stalking called a concert, gang stalking called a school event function for kids, gang stalking called police training, gang stalking called the business hours of Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California, 91762. Okay? This is P.O.C. and this is criminal summoning by the Ontario Police, which is a malicious iteration of how surveillance by corrupt law enforcement agencies are engaging in that pattern of conduct, and so are the people of the state. This is what Griffith is engaging in. They call it construction work. Okay? That's what they're doing while they're surrounding with light activity. And who's stalking on Hope Boulevard? The Ontario International Airport. The Ontario International Airport is historically targeting with the Ontario Police Department. And while they're on the surface telling me, oh, this is about this event, the Ontario International Airport's criminal monitoring conduct is directly rebutting that. I'm looking at a psychopath that's lying out of their face. You're going to prosecute for that because in substance, I'm here targeting you and I'm banking on your dropping dead. That's actually what Robledo and A. Morris are engaged in and counting on. And Satan is laughing at them because it's not happening. It's not happening. I'm going to witness and you're going to witness the truth of what I said before it happened. Just like I did regarding the fake son, just like I did regarding going to federal prison of people like Tracy Banks and Jason Phillips. They're going to federal prison as surely as Robledo and A. Morris were in front of my face, and the entity has the audacity to surround. Guess what they're doing? Monitoring my vagina. While these demons are stalking, walking toward the library as I'm walking, they're stalking all around, and they do the same thing when I walk into the bathroom. Guess what they're doing? Crossing path 73906G4 does that while he is aware, while I'm inside, that my vagina is exposed, and he's outside of the building stalking with light activity. That's a sex offender that is also taking pictures on Facebook with his girlfriend or his gay lover and their 2 adopted kids, or his wife and their kids that he has living his life as a heterosexual man. That's a family guy, a supervisor at Walmart. He's a sex offender, monitoring a woman's vagina and conspiring her murder. That's the entity that's gang stalking. All right, it's currently, by the way, while the entity is stalking by planes, while they're triggered by the truth of what I speak regarding what they're doing, and they're going to prison for it. The entity is surrounding with light activity, the Ontario Police Department, and they are monitoring my vagina. While you hear that plane activity, there's no plane activity when you're taking off from the airport. That's the entity. Robledo and A. Morris are going to prison. P.O.C. It's 10:16 a.m. Stalking with the Ontario Police, license 9LVF121, and the targeting conduct by Alan D. Wapner, who's a sex offender and a demon, monitoring my vagina. That's why every airline's engaged in surveillance in Ontario. Southwest Airlines will have no flights that are ever hovering over the parking lot of the OVITT Family Community Library, over the parking garage, or over the 280 North Lemon Apartments. And they're doing so also under the unmistakable fake son. Sex offender, monitoring with the Ontario Police, 5LIF240, monitoring with the Ontario Police, 8UJY954, monitoring with the Ontario Police. These demons are pacing. It's the same thing that they were doing all morning while I was documenting stalking, flying over the Ontario Town Square. As I'm at the OVITT library, they're flying over while I'm over here, stalking with the police, 98UC167. Ontario Police are creating that light activity around the perimeter. License plate 7UKS103. These are demons engaging in a ritual. They're mental illness. They're going to be diagnosed. 5LIF240, 9JZP513. This is what they're doing outside while they know my vagina is exposed and a stalker, a homosexual, enters in stalking. 5YPAN12, 7UKS103. And the Ontario Police are surrounding with light activity. This is what they do before they murder someone. 42796D4. The businesses are sharing in conspiracy to murder. The police, the entire neighborhood, Metro 102, 280 North Lemon Senior Apartments, 8LDC 826, the OVITT Family Community Library, CAPTLPZ. The entity is engaged in this while they're engaged in corporate invasion of privacy, engaging in surveillance in bathrooms, engaging in satanic conduct that you know the substance of, so you know that there's sexual violence inherent to gang stalking. There are psychopaths that engage in ongoing pacing. That's what all those demons just did together. That's what the Ontario Police Department does by helicopter, flying in circles repeatedly. They do that as a group collectively, okay? The entity is doing so while I walk from the town square to the library, which is at the same C Street, where I'm documenting police training by demons that are gang stalking Ontario PD on July 14, 2025 at 6:45 a.m. The fake sun is on this same street. And I walk out as I'm documenting the Ontario police engaging in criminal summoning at 6:19 p.m. at this same C Street, where the fake sun that's setting is in the same position where the fake sun is rising at this same location. That's who's stating that they're present with regard to an event. Stalking and monitoring, engaging in sexual violence with 9FGY233. These are sex offenders that live their lives engaging in corruption, engaging in what is serial killings, engaging in what is targeting people. And you're looking at them on the surface like they have some sort of reputable lifestyle. No, they're not. They're sex offenders, and then they go home, live their lives. They engage in targeting, conspiring, murder, and then they go to their yoga class. They engage in stalking and monitoring and terrorizing American citizens, and then they go teach the kindergartners at school. Okay? The entity is engaged in this, and that's going to be, again, the prosecution of the state of California. License plate, 70FY929, stalking and monitoring, conspiring murder, and a homosexual monitoring my vagina, keeping it under surveillance with the Ontario Police Department. Okay? That's what they're doing when they're engaged in surveillance, sitting outside of the bathroom, inside of the library. That's what they're doing, engaging in surveillance when they're sitting all around inside, at the desk inside. They're stalking with the employees who can't do it by themselves. These unread ignoramuses are stalking inside of a library because, like I said, the targeted individual is a well-read, learned individual who's prosecuting them. So guess what? All the idiots, all the sex offenders who don't even read, they don't read anything. They text and they post on Facebook, on social media. They don't type any more than 140 characters. These demons are idiots. They're engaging in this criminal conduct, and they're in a library stalking with the Ontario police because the target individual is in there. And the target individual is dragging them. I'm going to prosecute you for stalking in the library. You're doing that while you're trying to murder somebody. And you're so heavily stalking, you follow into the bathroom. That's what Robledo and Morris are obsessed with, my vagina, stalking a psychopath, while the Ontario International Airport proves what they're actually doing. Because there are no flights from the airport. That includes flying over the Ontario City Hall, the Ontario Senior Center, the Ontario City Center Senior Apartments at 280 North Lemon Avenue. And I've documented every airline: Alaska Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, Amazon Prime Air, Frontier Airlines, FedEx, UPS. All of them are engaged in targeting while you are deviating, flying miles away, and then hovering over the roof of a senior citizen at that. There's zoning. And that's also a public nuisance. And they're doing that not only where I'm showing you, you're clearly stalking over here while you're doing that. You know that it's stalking because they do it while the fake sun remains over me. And you know that this is where the street is, where the fake sun is rising and setting. And the entity just, again, engages in what is following me. And then all those demons, all those license plates, those are psychopaths sitting around like sharks in the water, swimming all around in a circle. That's what they're doing. They're psychopaths that commit murder together as well. 7JWD189. The Ontario Police, Robledo and Morris, are going to federal prison. And the entity is monitoring my vagina. Okay? That's the conclusion there, and they're going to federal prison, and they're being disbanded because they're sex offenders. This is P.O.C. Okay, the video is being published right now. It's published right now at 10:21 a.m. Oh, hold on. Unfortunately, hold on, let me log on to, okay. Let me log on to Wi-Fi because I'm going to document where I am the moment that I'm publishing. That's what the Ontario International Airport is doing regarding the moment. Remember, targeting is identified not only in the environment, but also timing. So when you are reviewing and analyzing what it is that I've exposed to you, you can recognize the pattern. What it is that I'm saying, it's triggering to the entity. Like a sex offender that's living their life as a married man or has a girlfriend and 2 little babies, and he looks this one way, he looks this way to the public and on social media, but actually he's a violent sex offender who's monitoring the vagina of another woman that he's keeping under surveillance and furtherance of murdering her with the government. He's a gang stalker and a demon-possessed one. That's not on social media. That's not on his resume where he's working as a supervisor at Walmart. And this is contrary to the reputation of the demon-possessed, and I want to be clear, while the entity is triggered by that, this is what the entity is engaging in. Okay, the kindergarten teacher that's married to an MD, and she only works for 4 hours a day, and then she's a stay-at-home mom, and she's well known, and she babysits all the kids, but she's actually a pedophile, and she's actually spiritually attacking these children and making sure that they are remaining afflicted in the spirit in a way that you're not aware of. But you will also see that manifested because they tend to engage in pedophilia. They tend to sexually violate. It's a spirit. So that which they're doing, which they think nobody knows about, it will manifest its way physically. They tend to engage in sexual violence with kids. They tend to engage in criminal and corrupt conduct that they think no one will find out about.
Okay, very malicious conduct. This is what Tracy Banks is guilty of. She's not married to any MD, and she certainly isn't educated. She is no teacher of anything other than probably sex, but it's something perverted, something satanic. Okay, you can ask Jason Isaac Fields about that. But the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and it's doing so pursuant to what is malice and the timing of what they do as they do it. Remaining the elements of monitoring. The Ontario International Airport is directly proving that Robledo, and Morris are lying about the purpose for their presence. It's the same pattern of conduct. You're looking at the surface, and you're also looking at the substance. They're claiming that they're there. You can, like I said, it doesn't matter. It basically doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how important they think, oh, this is, no, it's actually, it's the same P.O.C. It doesn't matter what they call it. It's the pattern of conduct. Surveillance is ceaselessly underway. And by the way, those are psychopaths, however, that engage in that. Psychopaths. It's not helpful because the OVITT Family Community Library employees, they're going to prison. They just engage in that, and they're going to stand up in court, and they're going to face what is the P.O.C., the evidence of it, and the malice that they engaged in it with, while that department is going to be prosecuted, and everything that department and everyone that department acted with, and you're going to federal prison. That's exactly how terrorism is going to be prosecuted, because that's what terrorism is encompassed. That's what is encompassed within terrorism as an entity is engaging in it. Okay, so I just want to point that out. I was logged off of the Wi-Fi, so I'm going to log back in, and I want to publicly announce the publishing of the video. The entity, again, those are cowards. They're stalking by helicopter, flew over, circles over me. And again, what's the statement behind that? Oh, nobody cares about what's published on the internet. Nobody cares. Oh, you don't care about the investigation. Oh, it's a joke. You're not really going to prison. We're going to drive right in front of you again. We're going to stalk and monitor. We're going to threaten you. Like, there are no consequences. This is what the entity is doing. And understand you're dealing with Satan. These are demons that amp each other up. Have you ever heard that song, Punks Jump Up to Get Beat Down? That's a rap song from, but the message behind it, the idea behind it, that's what the demon possessed do. They lie to each other, they maintain illusions amongst each other, and they engage in this, and they have reaped a tremendous level of judgment. But that's what they're doing, and that's how that's supposed to be perceived. Meanwhile, there is no show. This is not a reality show, this is not a game, and it's not a joke. And the entities engaging in conduct as though they are, again, as though, meaning they're concerned with the way that it looks. They look like it, they're unbothered. Oh, they even look like you're not targeting me while you're targeting me, and trying to establish that's supposed to be evidence that you're not targeting me while you're still targeting. Because if you're not targeting, then you're going to continue to do the same thing. And the same thing is ongoing evidence of targeting me. Meaning if they were engaged in surveillance, then they would know what I'm stating and they would stop it. No, that's not what that means. They're maniacal psychopaths, and they're also delusional. And while they engage in more of the same, it is evidence of targeting me. While you engage in that pattern of conduct, and you also demonstrated a disregard and a disdain for stopping to conspire to murder someone by gang stalking, to stopping from engaging in what is threatening their life and safety and well-being, while you've also engaged in criminal acts such as falsely accusing with the people of the state who are engaged in that pattern of conduct, you are engaged in criminally defaming. Remember, the Ontario Police, they didn't just engage in kidnapping. They also went out. This is how you know it's not a mistake or an error or a mishap. It's malice. They also made up charges against me. So you engaged in kidnapping while you stated that I was molesting kids. This is why I documented June 16, 2022. That's not an accident. And guess who's actually molesting kids? Tracy Banks, Jason Isaac Fields, the entity, the Ontario Police Department, they're pedophiles. That's why they make those specific allegations, by the way. And they did that in a court while the Ontario Police is interested in stealing my money and property, while they're stalking me at the same time and making very, very interesting allegations. Not only are they false, but it's relevant to what they do, actually. 7UDC 798, monitoring me while I'm at the door. They know what I'm doing. They also know what's going on between my legs in the bathroom. 7WDS 904. Those are sex offenders. That's why when I walk out and I capture the fake son in the afternoon, the entity is already stalking, tracking my steps, maintaining plane activity, flying over, stalking by helicopter. Remember when I went to the back of the library and then I walked to the front of the library, and the Ontario Police and a demon in a vehicle, the Ontario Police vehicle, they're crossing path together. They're tracking my steps. The entity is engaged in what is stalking. And you are engaged in that same P.O.C. and claiming, oh, we're here for an event. That's malice. Those are psychopaths. That have made very specific allegations regarding their sexual deviancy, their criminal activity, and their ongoing conspiracy to engage in kidnapping and murder. And they're doing it while it is evidence relevant to what they committed at this venue, the OVITT Family Community Library, who was gang stalking with the Ontario Police surrounding with light activity. That's a terrorizing threat. You're going to prison for threatening an American citizen at that level. Where the police are stalking you, as an entire agency group stalking you, you're going to federal prison. That's terrorism. That's what the Ontario Police are engaged in. For me to be in the presence of Morris and Robledo, Robledo and ask them that question. Understand, I'm conducting an investigation. I'm not less entitled to what is protection of I have a right to not be subject to that. And certainly the ordinary target individual does. And this is exactly how I would be zealously advocating on behalf of any client that I represented regarding terrorism in the United States. You're going to prison for that. All I'm doing is documenting it because I'm engaged in publishing substance regarding a public investigation. And I'm showing you the malice. This is what it looks like on the surface. This is what they want you to think it is. And you can clearly see it's not all you're looking at. You are aware of the P.O.C. Oh, yeah, where the fake sun rises and sets? Oh, you call that a concert. Okay, got it. It's the same P.O.C. You can call it whatever you want. In other words, we're getting beyond that. It's irrelevant. It's relevant to malice, though. That's malice when you're engaged in kidnapping and making allegations about pedophilia that you're engaged in, making allegations about mental illness that you suffer from, making allegations about STDs that you have, okay? Criminal acts that you committed against me and try to frame me for it. That's what the entity's engaged in. And Jason Isaac Fields, Tracy Banks, Eric Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, Morgan Amanda Smith, Ariana Elena Lopez, Carrie Ann Heberlin, Edwin Lamont Grant, Shanita Ramaya McLean, DeJuan Williams, Glenn Anthony Williams, Anthony Jawan Kennedy. I typically know my friends' full names. That's why I'm able to do that, because I'm a good friend and I'm very attentive and observant. But that's why I'm able to give their whole name, because these are people that I've known for years. And that's also what the entity used to give credibility to perjurious testimony. While they're conspiring my murder and kidnapping, and they're in the background, they're relying on the Ontario police to kidnap and put that stuff on paper because they're in court perjuring themselves, aiding in what is conspiracy to murder and kidnap and steal my money and my property. They're all going to prison. As sure as I document Robledo and Morris stalking in the path, engaging in terrorism with the state, they're going to prison, okay? This is, again, Eric Hoy Spencer, his girlfriend, any of his girlfriends. I don't know those young ladies. I'll keep it at that. I don't know any of those young ladies, but any of them claiming anything, stating anything on my name, you're going to prison, okay? Because I don't even know them. But like I said, not only is it, it's the 7GWY 804. These demons are obsessively stalking me while they're going to federal prison. And they're listening to me remind you about all the evidence that's on the record while they're engaging in gang stalking on another day. But all they're doing is pacing around like sharks in the water, just circling around, just pacing over and over and over and over and over. And the Ontario police are on the perimeter maintaining light activity, okay? So like I've stated, the entity is at the same time engaged, perjuring itself, okay? Doing so while they're engaging in the pattern of conduct regarding my character, because while an entity engages in surveillance, you have the structure of laws that are designed to facilitate targeting theft by the government that can manufacture mental illness when you put together and combine what is constitutionally vague, constitutionally insufficient to establish mental illness. So you just say, oh, they sleep around a lot and they're crazy. And we'll just have this medical professional sign off on it. And we're going to do it outside of that person's presence and regarding property that we're not even going to tell this person about. And that's what the state of California did. They're going to prison. This is what the Ontario police is engaged in that. U62, IJB, and so is that third party. This is a statewide pattern of conduct. And how do you know that it's statewide? Because the state of California keeps a fake sun over me. This is what demons do. This is how they engage in a quote-unquote come-up. I'm referring to it in the vernacular. This is how they profit. This is how they engage in making money. This is how they steal positions of authority. This is how they set people up. Okay? This is the entity that engaged in that. This is a tremendous conspiracy committed against me, but this is, again, one that is supported with evidence. It's not an unsupported conspiracy that I'm just spouting about, but unfortunately I don't have any evidence to prove it. No, that's not this. Okay? Every angle of the case is proven and supported by evidence, including what Robledo and Morris are doing in substance, including while they do it. While I'm encountering them and talking to them, 35593C4, I am forced to be the investigator and the prosecutor. And because of that, they're going to prison. That's an unlawful threat to my safety and my life. And they violated my liberty, they being that agency, this entity, on more than one occasion. Okay? Doing so in your face, that's what American citizens are not going to be subject to. You're not going to be subject to that. This is going to force the entity that's engaged in surveillance to be a lot more sneaky. Okay? But nonetheless, what you're not going to do, what they're doing, they're doing it right in your face. Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's psychological torture. That's psychological torture.
That's a threat. But impliedly, what are you going to do about it? That's what their challenge. What are you going to do about it? You're going to prison. That's and it's already a foregone conclusion. I'm just letting you know what's the purpose behind those tactics. You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. The entity is engaged in that. Okay, published as of 10:33 a.m. and monitoring is 6JZF154. She's engaged in monitoring on the internet, pacing, driving around the turn circle, and she's doing so with the Ontario police that's surrounding around the perimeter with all police vehicles instead of the city of Ontario that's gang stalking every day. In the same manner, the Ontario police added themselves by surrounding in the perimeter. In doing so, remember, it's always under the guise of criminal summoning. They have to be there for some reason. They're doing something related to the execution of their duties, but they're not. It's surveillance. And that's where you're getting to malice. They can call it anything they want. It doesn't matter what, and you're getting to the P.O.C., then you're like, it doesn't matter what they call it. That's understanding the PC to investigate. License DE29G66 paper on a silver Infinity. License 8SSR141. These are psychopaths pacing all around. 8WSG186. And license 4WKZ995. This is what they're doing after 6 p.m. when the fake sun is still here at the same entrance when I'm walking in under it. The entity covered it up and they're still stalking with light. That's what the documentation of the fake sun shows. And when I'm publishing evidence on the internet, they begin sounding sirens while the demons are pacing all around me, stalking with light, stalking in the path. And that's the entity that's stalking using police vehicles, fire trucks, and ambulances. 8LES081. This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, the entity's monitoring on the internet. I am connected to the Wi-Fi, disconnecting. Repeatedly disconnecting. This is what they're monitoring on my device. So that's the significance of the pacing conduct. You're going to analyze the pacing conduct. That's used to, again, have the entity committed to diagnose them. They're literally pacing and into like, these are psychopaths. But they're monitoring on my device in real time. What they're doing affects the communication devices. What they're doing is relevant to what is keeping your devices under surveillance. And that includes the police who don't have any warrant or probable cause. And they also don't, while they're maliciously doing so, under the guise of an event at the Ontario Town Square. Okay? That's P.O.C. That's the entity that's engaging in what is public corruption. And Robledo and Morris are going to federal prison. And the entity is also going to be producing information. The United States Postal Service wants to get in. You already know that they're stalking. The entity has the fake sun over the Ontario Town Square while it's over me at 1555 East Hall Boulevard. This is nothing new. They're engaged in what is stalking and targeting with the government that didn't give me any notice regarding my property, give me any notice regarding court hearings. The United States Postal Service is engaged in gang stalking and furtherance of murder. It's a statewide P.O.C. and that represents the feds, by the way. 38249E4, 6ZAD493. Tracy Banks and Jason Fields are going to prison. They have a failed conspiracy trying to defame me, and those are two maniacal psychopaths. Not only mentally sick, they're physically sick. They have HIV, okay? And they try to depict my character by stating that I have HIV. Not only is that a lie, I find that to be constitutionally insufficient, especially while they're engaged in surveillance with the state, trying to defame my character. But even the ordinary targeted individual is not going to lose custody or control of your property based on what is your sex life, which is not the government's interest. And it certainly isn't when the government's keeping you under surveillance. How many whores are celebrities making millions of dollars? They make money off of sex. 9SVE860. The entity is going to be prosecuted for this. That's malice. While you're hearing the government provide evidence against the OPD. 7WGE197. The Ontario International Airport, Alan D. Wapner. This is the entity that's engaged in what is the implosion of this whole system. These are the intellectually impotent that are stalking, and while they're stalking, they're providing evidence against each other. Okay? That's P.O.C. It's currently, again, 10:36 a.m. And I'm going to log on again. The entity keeps logging me off of the Wi-Fi network. And I'm actually going to get off because I said I was in this. By get off, I mean I'm going to stop recording now. The entity is engaged in ongoing sexual violence. Every employee, every third party, they're engaged in surveillance, making sure that they are crossing paths, making sure that they're maintaining activity, doing so in psychopathic manners, very malicious manners, while they're engaged in what is homosexual violence, engaging in what is contribution to the delinquency of minors, engaged in what is public corruption, and doing so while they're inside of a quote-unquote family community library. These are demons. This is engineer light inside of here. And just like that chaos that's outside while they're gang stalking, guess what they're doing in here? All they're doing is gang stalking. That's it. Okay, that's P.O.C. And it's 10:37 a.m. And I just want to make sure, let me see something. While the entity is monitoring on my device, and all they're doing, like I was stating before at the outset, all they're doing is trying to slow down the ability to upload.
with regard to a 7-year-old's mindset, okay, an adult like myself, if it doesn't have a fruitful ending, I don't waste my time. There's no point in it. But a demon and a 7-year-old level of maturity will obsessively engage in that which is providing what is it's a negligible. When you're slowing it down, you're slowing down the internet. First of all, you're engaged in the criminal conduct that I accused you of. But not only that, it's still going on the internet. So when I'm documenting you stalking in the path as an agent of a corrupt department, and you're going to prison for that, and you would rather do that, you're gaining federal prison time as opposed to I'm still going to put, it's still going on the internet at the end of the day. So what is it actually, what are you gaining? Other than federal charges. This is the entity that, and while I speak that, what do? Stalking more helicopter activity and surround. These are the childlike mind state of people that are mentally, they are unfit to even be in the positions while I'm exposing them for criminal conduct that's going to have them removed. But all I'm doing is scrutinizing their inept mindsets. Okay? That's a threat to the public. Nobody at that level should be in that position, have that type of authority or exercise of influence or that sort of ability to threaten other people by exercising the authority that the Ontario Police do. Okay, and you know that all because they're stalking by helicopter. There's clearly something wrong with you. But I've provided a level of study into the sick minds of those that are totally unfit on the surface and in substance to be in the positions that they're in, and that's why they're gang stalking, by the way. That's why they're gang stalking. But it is relevant to their behavioral pattern in the specific environment. And I want to just see real quick. Hold on. Yeah, the entity is definitely monitoring. So the video at 8:21:20, this is a product of surveillance on your devices, removing information in this description box of YouTube. I filled out all the playlist that I wanted on. This is all cleared out, and I published the video, and it's back in a draft form, and they do that by logging you off, forcing your phone off of the Wi-Fi network. And this is relevant to the Ontario International Airport stalking by plane. That plane activity that you can hear, that's occurring in the engineer light. That affects your devices. Okay, while they are present, meaning they're not walking around and driving. These are demons they're cockroaches in the spirit. They're pacing all around you, and it affects your devices. They're engaged in what is monitoring while they're being prosecuted. So I am breaking what they're doing. I'm breaking that down for you while they're engaged in documented criminal activity for which they're going to be prosecuted. Okay, and they're going to be prosecuted by status, the people of the state versus the state acting directly, and including those that are engaging in federal offenses that warrant federal prison, non-negotiable federal prison, deportation, non-negotiable deportation, et cetera, et cetera. It is 10:40 a.m., so I'm going to publish right now again while I'm on the network, and demons are inside of the library with kids singing and skipping. Those kids are gang stalking, and they're doing so with their parents that know that they're in that environment. They're using their kids to engage in that, and remember, they do that with regard to, let's go in the bathroom and let's go monitor another woman's vagina, and let's do it with my kids. Those are the sex offenders that present themselves one way to you in the public, when really they're violent sex offenders, and they are serial killers, maniacal psychopaths they give birth to kids too. And they want to appear normal and healthy and like us. There's so much innocence and affection and compassion that you'll have for somebody that gives birth, right? These women are homosexuals. And these women are sickos. They're predators while they are relying on the appearance of being around children and being in custody of children and taking care of them while they're gang stalking with them. And they're gang stalking in bathrooms as actual homosexuals. Okay, who are obsessed with my vagina. And you know that because the entity starts stalking by planes as I speak that truth, okay? Because the entity is triggered by the truth about what they're doing, and they want to do it in secret, and you're not doing that. You're not doing that. You're going to do it in front of everybody, and you're also going to be publicly prosecuted for it. It's 10:42 a.m. Everything in this library is about me. This is how mentally ill they are. Everything outside is about me. That's how mentally ill they are. And it's pathetic. And they have the maturity level of 7-year-olds, and that's why it's also not hard for me to drag them and prosecute them. And these 7-year-olds, this collection of 7-year-olds, they were told beforehand what's going to happen, and they continue to do it, and they continue to do it with regard to what is proven in a body of evidence. It's an irreducible and insurmountable body of evidence. In fact, the more that you do it, the more intense the prosecution and those penalties are. And that's where you get to Robledo and Morris. Right off the bat, you're going to prison. Going to prison.
and those that you're targeting with, you're going to prison. So while I document you and the entity targets me with helicopter activity, you're going to federal prison. Walking downstairs as I refresh my webpage, that's the demon inside of the library. Remember, they do that while the fake sun sits over the window of the staircase above them. These are demons, okay? And they're monitoring what they know is going on my device. These are literally demon-possessed people. Standing in line at the circulation desk is a basis of presence in the path. Okay, they're all stalking, monitoring what I'm doing on my device, and they're all aware that I'm publishing video, and that knowledge is shared while I'm outside, and the entity is stalking by planes and helicopters. These are demons that are engaging in that same knowledge, and they're engaging in presence. And how are you engaging in presence? Have a line built up at the circulation desk where I'm at, where they're all in engineer light in doing so. All the noise is made pushing around the book carts and engaging in what is any sort of noise activity. It's all in the engineer light. And guess what sits over the building? The fake sun. Okay? This is P.O.C. This is demonic activity. It is laughable what the dead do, but again, they're dead. So what do you expect other than to abide in death? All right, that video of 8:21. Hold on. That is published. Excuse me. That is documented at 8:21 and 20 seconds. Is published online right now. All right, this is P.O.C. and this is what the entity is monitoring while I'm publishing videos, while I am in use of the devices, while I am engaged in private activity in a private space. It is all under surveillance, and everybody is in this library to maintain that ongoing, ceaseless pattern of conduct of sexually violent means of psychological torture, harassment, and terrorism by the demon-possessed, who are the people of the state. And the City of Ontario employees are state actors, so these are not third parties. Because they work for the city, they're going to be prosecuted as state actors, and they're engaged in surveillance. And their focal point is actually me, and not their job, not their schedule, not how long they've been here. It's not based on chronology. The reason why you know that I'm the focal point is because the fake sun remains over me as I come to this venue. They're demons at that. Covering up the fake sun doesn't change it. It proves that you're demons in a supernatural environment where you cover up a 12-hour remaining fake sun, and you cover it up, and you're still engaging in that pattern of conduct, which is stalking with light, including impossible light. They all have multiple shadows inside of the venue. All right, these psychopaths, they're going to prison, okay? They are documented on June 16, 2022. They're documented since 2018 with the Ontario Police, and I mean it, every one of them are going to prison. That's shared in kidnapping and criminal summoning, and guess why they're going to prison? Because they're acting with impunity. And this is how you're going to target domestic terrorists who are violent sex offenders. You know what they want to represent themselves as on social media and in the public? As a family community. They are nothing close to it. This is torture, terror, harassment, Satanism, pedophilia, sexual violence, perversion, voyeurism, corruption. That's what this is. This is P.O.C. It's currently 10:46 a.m. That's impossible light activity on the vehicle. They're monitoring me while I'm in the bathroom. This is bathroom monitoring. Under the fake sun. These are sex offenders. That's P.O.C. And you pay attention to how the engineer light on the vehicle, you see that? They're one after another. These are demons. And this is pacing. And this is sexual violence. This is what they're doing while I'm in the bathroom, and sex offenders, homosexuals are going in, monitoring me. And this is speaking to monitoring that's ongoing outside. The fake sun is still here, just like I documented, on an ongoing basis. This is the fake sun that they're driving in. The fake sun's on the passenger side of their vehicles. You're looking at engineer light that's appearing on the driver's side of their vehicles. And this is the unintelligent illusion, as though the sun, which is not going anywhere, that's where it's at, right here at 6:45 in the morning, 7:15, where the demons of the Ontario Police, like Morris and Corporal Robledo, who are going to federal prison, are gang stalking at 303 North Euclid Avenue, which is right here on the opposite side of the same street. At 7:15 in the morning, the fake sun is looking like this when I'm right there facing this direction. The entity is engaging in this as though the sun is reflecting. Okay, it's a low hovering, low hang. You've also got engineer light underneath the covered structure. This bathroom monitoring. These are sex offenders all monitoring my vagina while they're pacing. These are psychopaths and these are demons. And this is sexual violence practiced by the government, including A. Morris and Robledo.
All of them monitoring together, engaged in federal stalking, which is sexual violence inherent in that pattern of conduct. Engineer light just flying in the air. They're intentionally and knowingly engaging in that, and they know what's going on with my vagina. 7WIF 754 is a homosexual with a bad wig who's obsessed with me. They consume my bodily fluids while they're engaging in predatory conduct with the government who sanctions it. And this is what they do, sexual violence, before they engage in murder. It is 5:57 p.m. The entity kept the fake sun out the window of the Fontana Lewis Library. Don't forget that while they're pacing under the fake sun. This is prosecution of the state. Okay, this is an aged, wrinkly, Caucasian homosexual, 5 VSF 883, because that's what you are, monitoring another woman's vagina. And the men who are gang stalking, males are engaged in that. And guess what this is? Massive gang stalking. They're monitoring as well, creating activity, pacing all the elements of monitoring. And guess what is actually the focus? The one who is being monitored under the fake sun. It's not about the event where the demons are engaging in what is the pattern of conduct. These are sex offenders on the microphone singing songs. These are sex offenders buying food, engaging in what is all manner of the P.O.C. This is at the OVITT Family Community Library where I documented the fake sun. Okay, as soon as I went inside, the cloudy sky immediately cleared off, but I've already shown you the fake sun. Look at September 9, 2025, where the entity, sex offenders, are in custody of children engaging in sexual violence, and they're cowards keeping their back to you. And if they are immigrants, you're going to deport them. We have enough sex offenders that are homegrown terrorists, and they're engaging in that with the hypocrisy of hiding behind children that they also have sex with while they're engaging in the sexual violence of monitoring an American citizen in a bathroom. When you're standing at the under the fake sun, you're a sex offender. And this is at the so-called OVITT Family Community Library. This is P.O.C. All right, it's currently 5:58 p.m. This is an entity. Millions of them pacing under the fake sun, monitoring my vagina while I'm inside of this venue. That's P.O.C. Guess who else is a sex offender? Alaska Airlines. And you already know that. They're gang stalking under the fake sun at this same venue at 10 o'clock in the morning. Stalking everywhere the fake sun remains over me. That includes Ontario Town Square. See? There's the fake sun. Alaska Airlines monitoring my vagina, just like every other corrupt company monitoring with the United States of America in order to conspire what is murder, and they're doing so while they're engaging in an egregious sex offense. That's a civil and criminal prosecution of that third-party company monitoring with the state. Here it's the Ontario police that are being disbanded. This is P.O.C.
Fourth, it's our big trunk or treat. That's Friday, October 24th at Westland Park. Enjoy the event as a participant or sign up to showcase your decoration to register.
Of everybody and at every location, especially in the rest of the country and in the city and the streets, where do you see the fake sun? And you need to pay attention to what you see and who you see. That's what you need to pay attention. It's the exact same pattern of conduct, and this is indeed public corruption. These are demons. A lot of them gathered today in a celebratory manner while they're engaging in a satanic fest where they're monitoring. And they're doing so with the Ontario Police Department that is engaged in criminal summoning. That's what this is. This is criminal summoning. That's exactly what this is. And the entity is communicating a very specific and detailed and unique threat to the targeted individual who is also documenting it. That's the intent behind psychologically torturing and flying over a group of people. Guess what? That group of people, they're not all in alignment with the fake sun from beginning to the end of the day. There's no question about what the Ontario police are doing and what they decided to do when it was exposed. They're being disbanded and they're going to federal prison for the public corruption. It's their fault. They're engaging in it, they're incentivizing it, and you're looking at them do so as enemies of the United States with impunity. This is impunity. And by the way, it is 6:05 p.m. The entity has the fake sun at the Fontana Lewis Library. This is not that. This is not that, okay? This is not that. And again, contrary to all the rest of them, I'm on, first of all, this same street where this is my experience at 6:38 in the morning on this side of the same street. That's not the shared experience with any of them. And also, the entity is engaging in what is flying in circles around me, just like you see with regard to this ongoing supernatural occurrence, which none of them are ignorant about. You're looking at malice and you're looking at demons who are monitoring, all right? And these off-key, no-singing, demon-possessed gang stalkers on the stage are engaged in public corruption, and they have no talent, all right? This is the pattern of conduct. This is the ongoing documentation of the state, and this is gang stalking with the people. All right, all of these people were monitoring my vagina all day long. This is a sex offense that's underway. This is terrorism. This is ongoing psychological torture while they're cheesing and coking and joking, and they're monitoring you. And the ordinary targeted individual's experience is what you're mindful of. not knowing any of the people, unsure about what's actually happening. But these are demons that are spiritually attacking you, psychologically torturing you, including by their behavior. Remember, gang stalking by strangers is a deliberate act of psychological torture and terrorism. This is the entity that's going to federal prison. Like I stated, Corporal Robledo, A. Morris are going to federal prison, okay? Even the video of A. Morris gang stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library, where the fake son is present on September 9th, over my head at this entrance right here at 10 a.m. The son is not going to be the same environment. That's relevant context regarding A. Morris on January 29, 2022 at the OVITT Family Community Library at 3:47 p.m. We're also the specific environment, not the natural environment, speaking to the context of her criminal presence. All right, and these demons walk right in the line of the video. That's fine. They're being disbanded. This is what they did last night, crossing the path, stalking by helicopter. And they're being told openly and publicly that they're monitoring. And guess what? They think if they don't look at you, you're not engaging in approving anything. They think that if you're not addressing them, that they're going to get away with it and that you're making it up. We're beyond hallucinating and making up things. They're going to prison. That's the same sex offender monitoring my vagina at 12:13 p.m. The thick one on the end. That's the same one with A. Casada. He's going to prison, and so are all of this. Is the entity that's being disbanded. That's impunity, by the way. And so is the people of the state. They flew over my head 3 times this morning by helicopter. They are specifically targeting me, doing so using vehicles issued by the city, doing so using helicopters. They're using the resources, bearing weapons. You're going to prison. This is the P.O.C. This is documentation of not only enemies of the United States, that is shared by the gang stalking immigrants. They're enemies of the United States. They share in that aggression. They share in that ongoing passive aggressive and psychologically torturous behavior. They're sharing in that pattern of conduct together. This is P.O.C. They're not ignorant. The fake sun that's rising and setting on one street, they share in this criminal system. The fest is an act of criminal conduct and is public corruption. This is P.O.C. It is 6:08 p.m. and this is the same Ontario Town Square. There's a clock, all right, where they're stalking over me, flying over me every day. And these are all the demons that are monitoring, aware of every time that I'm present, engaged, and subject to that. They're just here physically sharing in what is an iteration of that same P.O.C. 224 North Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. This is not in alignment with the Fontana Lewis Library 8437 Sierra Avenue either. And those demons decided to be in the camera lens. That's the entity that's engaging in that. They decided last night to fly over by helicopter while I was documenting impunity. They decided to cross paths stalking conspicuously, which is what this is as well. But they went out of their way to go and engage in, this is all crossing path. This is pursuant to the gang stalking conduct. And this is what they commit. These are serial killers and they commit murder as an entity as well, with smiles on their faces as though nothing is happening while they target, and they're the demon possessed. This is P.O.C.
Those are demons, just so that you know. Demons singing in Spanish at the Ontario Town Square, engaged in domestic terrorism and psychological torture with the Ontario Police Department, with the Ontario International Airport, and with the same demon-possessed population who are still engaging in what is stalking, targeting me, where I'm located at the Ontario Town Square with impossible light activity. Driving on the C Street turn circle, driving on the street where the fake sun is both documented rising and setting, is never going to reach me in the center of that square at any location with headlights. Sex offenders sharing with these Spanish-speaking singers who are demons, 19823X3, and I want to be clear, it is nothing less than symbolism while the entities engaged in gang stalking with immigrants who are engaged in terrorism with the government who are going to be subject to deportation. All right, and the entities engaging in this, the city of Ontario is hostile to the deportation policy, but they're also hostile to the Constitution. They're hostile to your privacy rights. They're hostile to your enforcement of your human rights. And the entities engaged in this is the elements of monitoring. This is gang stalking. And they're doing so while you're listening to this music. It's the elements of monitoring amongst engineered light. I'm being molested. Those are sex offenders. Those are psychopaths, and those are demons. And they were monitoring my vagina inside of the library, which is across the same street, where demons know exactly where I'm located and are engaging in that same pattern of conduct. Okay, that's the P.O.C. I took a picture so that you can get a visual, because you'll see them on the stage at the Ontario Town Square where I'm documenting ongoing terrorism day and night. And as I captured on video, which you listened to, that ongoing terrorism remains underway. And what are the Ontario Police Department engaging? It's called criminal summoning. Now they're engaging the P.O.C. centered around an event, where that event includes all of the elements of monitoring. They're doing it under the fake sun. They're doing it amongst impossible light activity. They're doing it while demons are psychos focused on me. They're not focused on the music. They're not focused on the performer. They're focused on me. And that specific environment, which is supernatural, is the proof of it. This is an illusion. This is not somebody that's some sort of egocentric, hallucinating, hypersensitive, somebody with an elaborate imagination. It's not that. I'm the last person that wants attention. These demons are focused and obsessed with me. Stalking and reversing in front of me is the method of stalking with light, 7YGC 635. Monitoring my vagina. And sitting up engaging in gang stalking at the Ontario Town Square Festival, the food festival, where they're engaged in gang stalking. These demons are not concentrated on the event. It's another event where they can engage in the malicious pattern of conduct. I'm going to let you know what Satan usually does. Satan engages in rituals right in front of your face and calls it a concert. Satan engages in spell work while you listen to Satan's music, while you listen to his artists. Satan engages in demonic ceremonies that you participate in unbeknownst to you. And this is what Satan is engaging in now, and they're calling it a food festival. They're gang stalking, which is demonic activity, and they're gang stalking me. This is, again, the entity that's engaged in public corruption as you prosecute and you legislate around what is exposed domestic terrorism in the United States, where the government is systematically murdering American citizens, subjecting them to sexual violence by a public entity, engaging in what is the inhumane system of the corporate invasion of privacy, while psychopaths are enjoying and engaging in this and also profiting from it. Okay, that's what the city of Ontario includes. That's what the state of California is engaged in. Okay, this is the P.O.C. So I'm going to document this demon right here, because while they engage in the same thing, I'm being molested with impossible light. This is license 5GGZ 863, 5XBS 719, and the demon is engaged in pacing. And I have 3 shadows. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shadows. She's doing so with a minor child in their vehicle. Understand that this is speaking to the threat that children are subject to, while they're parents and the government are a bunch of and again, the government, they come from families, they have families as well with children. This is speaking to a population of sex offenders. This is speaking to a population of psychopaths. This is speaking to a population of violent offenders that are engaged in maintaining families, and nobody knows about this violence that they are inflicting upon one person together, and then they are also in custody of children. You need to understand that the threat that poses to those children, okay? And the entity is engaging in this conduct toward people that they don't know, toward people that they treat like they're not even animals. The demon-possessed are more humane to animals than they are to the target individual. These are demons, and they dehumanize people, while they also have what are young children that they're engaging in that conduct with. 8YYF 818 is a prime example. All right, they're engaged in this criminal system, which is sexually violent, psychopathic. It's also entirely criminal, while they are doing so amongst what is an event provided by the government, the city, and they're doing so while they get to maintain the outward appearance, the outward guise of normalcy, family events even, young people out playing and, not playing, but hanging out and skateboarding. You see all the children in the middle of the field, and you saw that fake sun? They're all monitoring. They're all of their little demon-possessed children. Okay, the entity is engaging in this, and that's what you're looking at when you are able to see the illusions, as I've shown you, what is right in front of your face, and you're listening to the music and its audible activity amongst light activity. It's a festival of demons, and they're engaging in what is satanic right before your eyes, and it's also criminal. It's the prosecution, and it's the disbanding of the Ontario Police. Okay, this is the P.O.C. It's 7:33 p.m. License EG34B35. That's a paper plate. I'm going to document these sex offenders. They're engaged in terrorism and psychological torture and harassment, and it is very targeted. The entity is engaging in that conduct and surmises because a lot of people are around. Then it's not capable of proving that they're targeting you, and that's a lie. That's again a false premise. The entity is engaging in that, and what you're looking at is the malice of psychopaths who beforehand presuppose that they can target someone, and that targeted individual will never be able to prove it. That's psychological torture, and that's the intent to torture someone in their mind before you physically harm them. All right, you haunt them and taunt them while you're doing that in their face in a manner that they're not typically able to construe or let alone prove. Molestation with impossible light is the psychopath that's the security at the downtown Ontario luxury apartments, where the Ontario International Airport is routinely stalking me over this apartment building. 8VCC 907. All right, and he is stalking with impossible light while he is in the parking garage, merely moving that vehicle to monitor me. 9JAV450, 9GRU 830, 9ECJ 846, 6HFS 746, 7MJR 425, 9UDD 851, 8ZBL 368, 8GGU 934, 9TVN 117, 8PUN 574, 7FRP 196, 8HGP 863. Sex offenders following, and you are following in the parking garage amongst what is engineered light. The entity, again, the false premise of, oh, I belong here, I have a right to be here, and I'm not stalking you as a legal conclusion because I live here, and that's a false premise. The entity is stalking you everywhere in the specific environment. You're going to be prosecuted for that level of malice. It's called psychological torture. License 8HGP 863, 8JDV 959, 7HRH 531. License 9NRA 932, and this is license 9, I want to say, is this an F or an E? 9FFX 562. License 8DFT 010. And it is, by the way, 7:35 p.m. Courtesy patrol is stalking as I'm walking through documenting license plates. 9AMJ131, 9KHY210. And courtesy patrol is monitoring with the demons that are surrounding the parking garage. Remember, they're pacing. This is what they do under the fake sun. So they're pacing on the outside of the parking garage. License EG54R50. That's a very dark African-American man engaging with driving a black Tesla with a white paper plate. It's taped on there. The entity is engaged in terrorism with knowledge that it's being documented. So again, the entity is very much engaged in tactics of obstruction of justice. The entity is not going to escape anything. But I document that, and I routinely incorporate that because that's going to inform federal legislation. 9VBL 795, 7HRH 531, 9NRK 305, 7PYU 163, 9CDZ 830, 8WWK 574, 9LTA 839, 5GJL 381. This is a demon that's monitoring, 9NGY492. What she's doing is she's running across the parking garage. She's doing so in engineer light while demons are pacing around the parking garage. The entity is always stalking via aerial surveillance, and she's the jingling keys is crossing past. She's monitoring 3PIE335. And why is that necessary? Because I'm moving in the parking garage. The entity maintains activity all around me. There are demons that are pacing all around. 7XRA641, 9BGW175. 8PNM425, I believe. Hold on. 8NPH425. 74441M3. 9ROA419. 8AZF986. CX94U06. 6HOE022. All right, this is P.O.C. 79315F3. On a document, again, the downtown Ontario luxury apartments is a gang stalker, and they are fully vulnerable and exposed to a federal raid, as is every household, every business, every single location. This is speaking to what the federal government doesn't understand regarding, or maybe you do understand upon listening and understanding the Constitution and how the Constitution actually works versus the exploitation of the Constitution that the government that's engaged in monitoring is engaged in. And because of the criminal surveillance system by the government, which is speaking to what's actually not private property, it's actually becoming a facilitating venue, which is public, and everything happening is public information. You are not sheltered by the Constitution. That's a malicious means of exploiting that Constitution, while demons like CX94U08 engage in criminal conduct on behalf of the government, and then also at the same time want to benefit and state that it's a private property, where you can be excluded while you're still subject to surveillance, where you can be subject to a summoning by the police for being on the property, interfering with their property rights regarding private property, where they're engaged in what is publicly monitoring you, violating your privacy in doing so, and doing so pursuant to what is an undisclosed system of surveillance. It's not private property. It is not private property in substance. It's not private property by definition of what private property is. Private property is the exact opposite of where the government can maintain surveillance of you inside of your private home, inside of your private space. And because of that, the government is fully exposed. Just like you can raid this Ontario City Hall, you can raid anybody's home because the entity is engaged in surveillance. The entirety of the state is fully exposed to that, and that's what the federal government needs to understand. Okay? It's very crucial because this is speaking to the entity that is engaged in surveillance everywhere, through everyone, at all times. You are fully capable, with also probable cause to investigate and knowledge about how this system works. At any time, you can execute. You can engage in what is prosecution. You can engage in what is raiding, where you understand that the entity is engaging in this in furtherance, remember, of murder. Murdering people and trying to do so in secret, and also engaging in a whole ritual practiced by the state full of demons that engage in torturing somebody, torturing them expressly and impliedly, doing so as a police officer that's not talking to the targeted individual, doesn't even have to look at them, is merely present. You see their guns, you see their police vests, you see them in the badges, you see them in the vehicle, you see them in that helicopter. All right, and that's all communicating an unlawful threat, intimidating that target individual who's subject to ongoing harassment. All right, harassment in ways that they can't really actually report to anyone because what actually happened. License 9JTM677, molesting with impossible light activity with the Ontario Police. Okay, this is what they said was the reason why they were here today, and it's criminal activity. It's also malicious, and you're also listening to how untrustworthy those demons are. Not only are they shown to be engaged in gang stalking, but they lie very seamlessly, very easily. Out of their lying faces, they speak about what they want to appear to be doing on the surface when you know and everybody else knows what they're actually doing. That's why the ongoing fake sun remains, and they did so with regard to what is light activity as demons who you already know are liars, who you already know are entirely illegitimate and unreliable. And you will always investigate the government that is in this specific environment because the government no longer has that unfettered discretion regarding. And what I mean by unfettered discretion, I mean what the government typically says, it's not questioned regarding the court. You said that someone was found guilty for X, Y, and Z and that they committed it and before a jury of their peers, but that cannot be believed, and that's not going to be the final authority based on what the entity is doing, what the state has shown that it is untrustworthy. As sure as you see lying demons wearing police officer uniforms today, speaking about the purpose for why they're there. And I'm the reason why they're there. I'm the person that's subject to what is gang stalking, which is underway right now, in the presence of that same department, replete with what the helicopters, even the same sex offender under the 12:13 p.m. fake sun, and gang stalking at the Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. This is the entity that engages in that, very effortlessly, without batting an eye, lying out of their face. License plate 7VHB900, in the presence of their co-defendants, very unintelligent, speaking very loudly about what they're actually doing, while the Ontario International Airport that has no flights that will ever remain over or occur over the Ontario Town Square, the OVITT Family Community Library, the OVITT Family Community Library's parking lot, the downtown Ontario luxury apartments, no flights over here at all. Certainly not at that elevation either, and certainly not anything that you're going to hear while I'm speaking to them. And that Ontario International Airport is providing evidence directly rebutting the lies that they spoke as monitoring audible activity, engaged in crime in real time as I speak with them, conducting my public investigation. They're liars. And that's what Satan is. He's a liar. Okay? Sitting on the bench lying, wearing police uniforms lying, all right? Being at the jails, being the sheriff's department lying. They're demons. Okay, so the entities engaging in this, and the federal government needs to understand, based on the implications, based on the way that the system operates and the way that the Constitution operates. If it's not actual private property, what rights do you have? Because it's not private property when the government's maintaining surveillance here. And you didn't consent to being under surveillance where you live. You didn't consent to being under surveillance where you are living with your roommates or living on campus. And the entity can consent to being under surveillance, but however, you can't consent on someone else's behalf to surveilling them in your home, and you don't have a right to do that. There's no constitutional basis for this at all. There's no constitutional basis for the government to maintain ceaseless surveillance under any circumstances at all. All right, we're not filling out any census. We're not filling out any questionnaires where they're asking, well, do you want to be under surveillance? Well, you can. Nobody else has been given. It's equal treatment under the law. Excuse me? Go where? It's private property? Okay, how do you know I'm not waiting for my friend? You didn't ask me that though, but you're assuming that? How do you, is this my car? Okay, so why are you assuming that? And why are you so hostile? While he's monitoring, this is courtesy patrol, and just listen to me give him that constitutional argument about what is not private property. This is harassment. You're gonna wind up in federal prison. That is. You could have asked me a question first. This is P.O.C. Courtesy Patrol. This is license plate. Again, this is the entity engaging in what is gang stalking, assuming, doesn't know whether my car is, doesn't know my apartment number, doesn't know who I'm talking to, what I'm doing. He's getting out of his car. You know why? Because he's monitoring. The rest of these demons are in the parking garage as well. Didn't say nothing to them. You know why? Because I'm documenting and he's monitoring. That's courtesy patrol. That's light activity and audible activity. The entity is monitoring even through harassment, assuming that I'm not standing by my car, assuming that I'm not having a phone conversation. But again, that's on the surface. He knows exactly who I am. He's monitoring. Molesting with impossible light. Knows exactly who I am. MSHU05. That's an Arizona plate. That's a lesbian, a homosexual, and a demon flying through monitoring with courtesy patrol at the downtown Ontario luxury apartments. And this demon gets the idea to say, oh, this is private property, while he listens to me give a constitutional basis for raiding every single location in the state of California. That's where he came up with that. And assuming, okay, so this is what I'm saying, they're unintelligent. Okay, that's fine. You want to throw out phrases that you learned from me right now. But how do you know that I'm not a resident on this private property? And if you're assuming that, why are you so indignant? He gets up out of his car. Hey, you got to go. Wait, what are you talking about? What are you talking? This is what I'm being approached with. But nonetheless, that's a demon that's monitoring as well. That's the malice behind criminal summoning. Who does that? The people of the state that are engaged in gang stalking, as you document, and they're keeping that evidence under surveillance. It's not even private property. The federal government has jurisdiction to raid. There is no private property in California. And you have jurisdiction to raid every home. You have jurisdiction to raid every establishment. You have jurisdiction to raid at any and all locations. That's the P.O.C. The Ontario Police Department are engaged in criminal summoning all day long, and the lies that you heard Robledo and Morris engage in, that's illustrative of the lies that they engaged in criminally defaming me with. That department engaged in criminal defamation and further into Tracy Banks, Jason Isaac-Fields, the federal government's intent to steal my money and my property, and doing so necessarily through making a fake conservatorship and having me on paper married to somebody that I would never even have a conversation with. And they did that behind my back while I've been subject to gang stalking. And guess what? The whole time I was maintaining my own investigation. I was documenting the entire time while the government has been conspiring my murder and has been systematically engaged in what is terrorism. And the entity sought to murder me in order to conceal that. My documentation, this ongoing evidence has been underway the entire time while the entity has been behind my back stealing my money and conspiring my death, and even stealing this very property, my intellectual property. Ask Jason Fields about it. They're going to federal prison. That's a government's unlawful act to conspire your murder. The government is conspiring murder. That's the government. While the police are stalking you, that's the government. While the police are defaming your character, and that's exactly what the Ontario Police have done. That's exactly what A. Morris did on September 25th, 2020 with Corporal Kemp. He's going to prison. Okay, and there was a third officer there. They're going to prison. The entity is engaging in this, and when the police are defaming you, that's the government defaming you. The government is defaming you when they have conspired to steal from you, to victimize you, to oppress you in one way or another, and the entity is going to end that with what is murder. They will kidnap you, put you in a facility, and you're going to ultimately lose your life. Okay, that's the entity. The entity doesn't target you just to engage in having a little bit of fun. This is how you know that these are demons that are wannabes. And who wants to be targeted? Nobody wants to be targeted, but the demons, they want to be me. They want to be me. They definitely do. They wish that they could crawl inside of my genitalia. That's how obsessed they are, both the boys and the girls. They're mentally ill. This demon possession is a matter of sickness. And that's the reality regarding those demons that I encountered this morning, Robledo and Morris. It's not different because they're wearing police uniforms. It's even more atrocious because of that fact, that they're wearing those uniforms. You see that department stalking me day and night. They're obsessed with me. They are obsessed with me. And they are sick and deranged psychopaths. And guess who else is obsessed? The entire population. And what is wrong with them is that because this is a population of demon-possessed people. This is a population of them. And that's speaking to what is also a threat to a population of children. These demons are the most promiscuous ones, by the way. They're the godless, demonic creatures who engage in what is specifically that whorish conduct. That's a spirit. That's a spirit. And the demon-possessed are the ones that are out here engaging in what is that conduct of the promiscuous lifestyle, and Satan wants you to do that too, and that's why it's promoted in music, that's why it's promoted in media, and you don't even understand and recognize that you're listening to Satan suggest to you how you should live, and you listen to that. And you need to understand, not only are you listening to, it's not merely a bad influencer, you're listening to Satan. You are listening to Satan himself. These are the ones that are giving birth to children, and guess what they do? They abuse those children. A whole population. These are psychopaths. So these psychopaths, you see them stalking with light under the fake sun, they have a bunch of kids. They have a bunch of kids. Demons of the Ontario Police Department. S. Patty, this psychopath that committed kidnapping on more than one occasion, she's going to federal prison. She is like bat poo crazy. She is out of her mind. I have witnessed her mental illness up close. She's not an exception. She's a psychopath just like the rest of them. It's just that I've encountered it. I've both sensed her mental illness and I've witnessed it. While she engaged in criminal activity wearing an Ontario police uniform, and I told her to her face exactly what's going to happen. She's going to prison. All right? The entity engages in this, however, and S. Patty is another demon that has children, has the audacity to have children, while you engage in violating other people like this entire agency engages in on a routine basis. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Guess what? In the state of California, they maintain adoption agencies. Guess what? They really don't care about those children. They don't care about those children. California is engaged in trafficking children. This is a malicious government system. They prey upon children. And that's not just some randomness, and it's just like not some of the time, like there's a ratio or perhaps just most of it. This is what the state of California is engaged in. California is engaged in a targeting system, and they are also engaged in what is preying upon children that they themselves also give birth to, that they abandon, that they abuse, they put them into the system, and that's supposed to be the reason why you're abused. No. That's a means of them sacrificing children so that they can be abused. It's orchestrated. Okay? So I just want to be clear, while I'm speaking that truth again, demons are molesting me with impossible light just like they were when those demons were on the stage, engaging in what is gang stalking by singing their songs with amplified music on the microphone. It's the P.O.C. Replace that amplification with helicopter activity. It's the P.O.C. All right, that's P.O.C. It's currently 7:50 p.m. Those license plates represents those that are engaged in that sex offense, molesting my body. That's how obsessed they are with me. These are sex offenders that are stalking me. All right, they're violent sex offenders, and the obsession is one that you cannot fathom in your mind. These are demon-possessed people who literally want to, like a snake, slither inside of my body. They wish that they could wear my skin. Okay, they want my hair follicles, they want my nails, they want my cuticles. All right, that's how obsessed they are, and this is mental illness that they seek to conceal. That's the reality. These are not a well people, and that unwell people work for they fill the Ontario Police Department. As I'm just focusing on what's going on in Ontario, California, this condition is statewide, and I'm just keeping it to the state of California because this is where I am. But this is not just statewide. This is what's going on in this country. Okay, and again, why am I keeping it to California? Because this is where I'm at. And why am I limiting it to the U.S.? Because this is where I live. This is the country where I'm from. But I do want to be clear, it's not limited to the United States. Contrary to how this country also thinks of itself, we are not the center of the universe. But contrary to what these demons behave like, I am not the center of the universe. But I'm the center of the demon-possessed, their alternate universe. I'm the center of it. They maintain a whole event today at the Ontario Town Square, and it's about me. All of those people, there were hundreds of people there, they were all monitoring me at the same time. It's very sick behavior. They were all monitoring one person together, and they do the same thing with regard to watching you suffer. They're all engaged in listening. They're aware of my documentation. They are aware of what's going on with my vagina while they're monitoring as a population in a bathroom. These are the demons that are stalking with the engineer light. Those are the psychopaths while they're driving on the east side of the street and I'm sitting on the west side of the street and I show you a video. You see light just slithering across the wall behind me. That's demonic. That was a field full of demons, and they were all there. That's the condition. They were all there maintaining an event, coking and joking like they're saying, like they are normal. Those are the demon possessed, and they just had an event tonight, and that was gang stalking. Okay, it's currently, just want to make sure that that's clear for you. It's 7:53 p.m. It is 6 NYD 346 and Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, full of demons. All they're doing is sitting around. The traffic lights are about me. Traffic is about me. The events that they hold in Ontario are about me. The entities that's engaging in what is all manner of activity, that which is also engineered. You cannot hear the train throughout the city. The entity is stalking me with helicopter throughout the city. The entity engages in everything that is doing pursuant to that department based on what I'm saying and what I'm doing, including when I pull my panties down. That's the entities that's engaged in what is obsession with me. Obsession. Not normal obsession like I broke up with my boyfriend and I can't get over him and I'm thinking about him every morning. No, that's not the level of obsession. It's the obsession where they want to collect my eyelashes. Okay, they want to examine my genitalia. They just want to open it up and just examine it and stare at it and just look at it and touch it. And they just want to sit there and pick at my body, and they want to wear my skin and put their skin on their face, and they want to sit there and listen to me breathe. They wish that they could just sit there and stare at me and that I wouldn't know about it. But that's what they're doing in the spirit. That's what monitoring is. That's what monitoring is. They're sitting at there staring and stalking you in the spirit, spiritually. That's your thoughts, all right? That's what it is because that's what these demons are doing. All right? That's what they're doing, and that's the level of obsession. You're talking about a police department. That's, again, referring to the physical. They're demons that are monitoring. That's the spiritual. And they're going to be prosecuted because Christ has exposed them. All right? So the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and that's the level of obsession. It's not normal. Okay, they want to consume my body fluids. They want to be next to me when I'm indisposed. They want to be a part of my private moments. They want to be there. That's a spirit, and it's a perverted spirit. It's a psychopathic, obsessive spirit. It's not normal. That is in the person. That is consuming the person of millions of people, because demon possession is very prevalent. That's what this is also showing you. I can't put that fake sun in the sky over me all day long. You know how many people are gang stalking me under that fake sun all day long? Yeah, it's thousands, if not millions of people every day. Every day. Okay? Following me from place to place as an entity. That's how obsessed with me they are. I'm not making that up. So, and I don't need to make that up, and I don't think that that's a good thing. At all. I don't think that that's good. I am describing this so that you understand this is a level of a threat that needs to be understood and appreciated, because there are American citizens that are ignorant about the enemy. And Satan wants to hide amongst those. You think that it doesn't exist because they sit in a church building, because they say that they believe in Jesus, or they host a Bible study at their house. Look at the police engaging in criminal conduct, that duality. That's what they do. They're demons. They don't care about Christ. They hate Christ. Satan is engaged in what is playing a role. And there's coming a time where Satan is not going to wear a disguise anymore. And by the way, I forced that mask off. They can't disguise themselves around me. I'm documenting it and I'm exposing them. But I want to be clear, Satan's purpose is to be in plain sight without you being able to make them out. Satan doesn't want to be known yet. But there's coming a day. Much like the movies that are made, they're based on reality, what these demons are. They're all dead. You've seen the movie Purge. I think I mentioned this before. You have the government sanctioned violence for a night, and nobody's going to have any sort of prosecution, no sort of penalties for going out and acting out all their psychopathic desires. You can kill as many people as you want, and nothing's going to result from it, and it has to stop at 12 a.m. or whatever the details are. I don't really watch that movie, but I saw some of it. That's what gang stalking is. That's exactly what gang stalking is. And the government's sharing in it, and the government is incentivizing it. The government's a part of it. Okay, the government might not be making an announcement. Go ahead and target for such and such hours. No, they're not doing that. But those movies come from what the government is actually doing. They're not creative. They're making movies about what they actually do. You're looking at movies about I Am Legend, about dead people that are collectively in the dark, and it's like they're nibbling on stuff. That was a really sick movie, but that's imagery. That's an illustration regarding the population of people. They're dead. They're demons. It's not movie material. It's real life. Demon possession is real. Satan has already taken over the vessels of many people. Many people. And I'll just put it that way. There are more that are in darkness than are not. The exception are those that walk with Christ, that know him as their Lord and Savior. And you don't just confess with your mouth. The Lord said, if you love me, then you'll obey me. Those are the ones that actually know him. Okay? Because if you're holding threesomes and engaging in what is, you're on whatever that website is where you sell your body parts. The demon possessed put me on these websites. I don't even know the names of them, but it escapes me right now. But anyway, if you're engaged in what is streaming sex and then claiming, hey, I'm forgiven, it's covered by the blood, and I love Jesus, and he forgives me, and he understands, you don't know Christ. I'm going to let you know that there's no exception to walk in and live in sin. That is not what he died on the cross for. And he didn't stay dead. He rose from the dead. He rose from the dead, and he is alive and well, and he's coming back in judgment. And there are people that don't know Christ, and the entity is engaging in what is maintaining a false sense of what is civilization. This isn't civilization. This is a whole illusion regarding life in California as you know it, regarding what's supposed to appear as something that you want to be a part of. Come in California, live the American dream. These are demons. They're dead. They sacrifice people. They're looking for the next come up. They're looking for a way, and they think that this is the way the demon possessed operate. They steal from other people as opposed to going ahead and do the work on your own. Go to college and even if they do go to college, they don't like themselves and they don't think that they'll be successful in college. They don't even try. They would just rather take somebody else out and steal their job somehow. This is and influence people with witchcraft, like weird demonic stuff that's out of the pit of hell. But targeting someone, that's of the devil. Okay, stalking, this demonic light activity, that's of the devil. They're demons. This fake sun chicanery, this nonsense, that's of the devil. They're demons. They're all demons, and they are engaging in what they typically enjoy. They engage in these rituals, and you don't even know it, while they're all under the fake sun that remains over that person that they're all targeting. Not only am I aware of the environment where they're targeting me, I'm aware of their tactics of targeting. All right, and so they're doing it now in front of the whole world so that you know how Satan preys upon people. So that you won't be ignorant. So that you don't find yourself in a circumstance where you don't know what is coming up against you. And it will come up against you just because of who you are, not for any reason, just because of who you are. All right, so anyway, it's currently 8 p.m. The entity is stalking with light. So that's the evidence of stalking. Impossible light activity while I'm sitting in the grassy area in the middle of the street. You're coming off of Euclid Avenue, driving on. The entity is driving right now. They're not blinding each other with their headlights, okay? The entity is engaged in what is stalking me with light, and those are demons that are engaging and pacing all around me, north and south of Euclid Avenue. They're going back and forth like sharks in the water. All they're doing is pacing. They're stalking me. This is the entity that is obsessed with me. Okay, it is current. I just want to document that it's currently 8 p.m. and it is again still what is September 13, 2025, and this is P.O.C. All right, being molested with light while nobody is even driving on the street, by the way. And then this demon with license plate 9SWM635 is pulling forward. They're part of the pattern of conduct. This is ongoing terrorism, and it's harassment by the United States government while they're engaging in a satanic means of keeping you under surveillance. This third party is engaged in a sex offense, engaged in psychological torture, and is engaged in what is surveillance, not traffic, and they have no constitutional right. Understand how the entity is going to be stripped down as I document you because of what the entity, they're fully exposed to being raided any and everywhere, and so are they with regard to documentation. You're engaged in criminal conduct while I document you, and I'm also documenting the entity that's molesting me with light, and that demon is operating that vehicle, sharing in the conspiracy to commit murder while I am being molested with impossible light. Again, that's license 9SWM635, representing an entity sharing in that ongoing harassment by demons who are engaged in surveillance on the roads and the highways, not traffic. They're all stalking. This is P.O.C. It's 8:05 p.m. All right, co-conspirator is clearly to murder. This is why they are stalking in the dark. This is why they are stalking in the dark with light activity as well. That's a sex offender that wants to touch you while they are lurking in the dark. And the other demon, they're engaged in teamwork, is on the opposite side of the street, sitting in the dark. And while I document this license plate of this homosexual woman who was stalking me in the middle of the night, doing so in an effort to accomplish ultimately murder, while she is stalking on behalf of the state, that is targeting with a population of demons who are stalking me perpetually everywhere that I'm going. This homosexual's license plate appears to be a Caucasian woman. She is stalking at 528 F Street, I believe. I'm going to document the address. This is at the Miracle Ear Hearing Aid. This is a facility where she's engaged in criminal monitoring, that establishment, and this is speaking to the whole neighborhood, but this is where she's stalking in that establishment. Understand that you're going to prosecute. You're going to be raided when you're gang stalking. You are gang stalking when the people of the state are on your property. It's not based on, oh, I wasn't there, my office was, you're going to be prosecuted. Okay? License, this demon is stalking and she's licensed 8VYA023. She's sitting there in the dark with her lights on with regard to wanting to touch me, wanting me to walk through it, which is crossing a path light activity. And a whole bunch of demons, all of them together, are monitoring me while I walk through that light. That's what they anticipate. The entity engages in a pattern of this stalking with light. That's a sex offender that's always wanting to touch you with light, including doing so with impossible light activity. It's also impossible light. It's not their headlights, just like that's not the sun. You see the object, but that is not the natural environment. That light that you see and those headlights you see, it's not headlights. That's engineer light that they want to touch my body with. And that's a homosexual that wants to touch my body while she is stalking in the dark another woman in order to keep her under surveillance, and she wants to murder that woman that she is stalking. That is, again, license 8VYA023, and she's stalking with the demon across the street sitting in the dark with license 8ZHT087, has the transmission on, is sitting lurking in the dark while demons aid them in their inability to, but I'm still being touched with light. You're always being touched with engineer light, but I'm avoiding the direct light because I don't walk in front of her car. I go ahead and get pictures of her license. I get images of the location, and then you'll have another demon that walks by. They'll walk, that drives by. They're driving by, and this is a demon that's monitoring. The entity is engaging what is driving by and drives by with regard to maintaining light activity because I didn't walk through the sex offender's creation of light using the headlights. That's a demon, and what do they do? What happens when you are creating what is light activity when you're driving by? Impossible light activity is happening. That's what's happening in the dark. In fact, I want to see, you can see the impossible light activity as I take the picture at 8:18 p.m. That's impossible light that you'll see in the images that I'm taking in the dark. This is while a demon is outside. I do capture, you'll see another, this is a co-defendant. They're all targeting me together. A demon that drives down the street after I don't walk through those headlights. And they're engaging what is the objective to stalk with a method of light activity. Driving past me while I'm on the sidewalk is coexisting with dynamic engineer light, just like you've seen during the day. In addition to that, the demon, the next one is a motorcycle, which is, again, what are they doing when they're at a distance from you and they can't touch you, for example, with some sort of impossible light activity, which is not the case. They can't not touch you. But what they're doing with regard to supplementing with amplified noise, very loud noise. So this is a demon that then engages in the same conduct, methods of keeping me under surveillance, keeping me monitored. A very loud motorcycle drives by in that environment where the demons are surrounding one vehicle after another. This is what Euclid Avenue is doing this morning in the cloudy sky space when the fake sun's not shining. Ongoing traffic is demonic pacing with light activity. The entity is engaging in amplified noise as a means of supplementing for the non-direct light. I didn't walk through the sex offender's headlights. The demon drives down the street. An engineer light moves across the building, but the entity is, I'm avoiding walking through their direct light, so they are supplementing. All the elements remain present. I'm just breaking down what the demons are doing, and it's also mentally sick behavior. Okay, this is all because they're obsessing over stalking and monitoring me. Okay, but a demon is driving by in a motorcycle that's providing extraordinarily loud audible noise in that engineer light. This is all because they want to obsessively follow me everywhere and monitor. And so does this license plate, ACPWRM3. This demon is sounding his alarm as a means of what is audible noise and light activity while I remain stationary at this office at the corner of, I believe this is Fern and F Street, or Fern and, I'm actually going to document this location because I don't see the address. But this is off of, let me just go ahead and do it while I'm here. I'll do it while I'm documenting. I was going to say I'll get it and take a picture, but let me just document it in real time. I am correct. It is F Street, and this is the office of Prime Rehab Center. Physical therapy, S-Chem. He or she is a gang stalking acupuncturist and herbalist, I suppose. Las Palmas Medical Group, they're gang stalking, and the entities engaged in criminal activity on the grounds of the establishment, and you are going to be held accountable criminally and civilly for what is happening on your grounds. It's not going to be limited to business hours. And by the way, when they are in the establishment during business hours, the fake sun is present. The establishment is gang stalking while the specific environment follows you there. They are engaged in gang stalking in California. But the entity is doing so at what is F Street and sounding train as I walk into the street. A demon surrounding with light shining in my direction at Euclid Avenue and F. Okay, so I'm at F Street and Palm. Just want to document that. Okay, this is P.O.C. Just wanted to document this, the significance of the picture that I'm taking. And in the same way that they weren't focused on the event, the demons that were singing and dancing on stage were engaged in gang stalking with the city of Ontario, entertaining them while they're engaging in what is a satanic ritual right before your face. These are things that you're ignorant about. And guess what? It's criminal conduct. All right, you're witnessing the prosecution of Satan. It's currently 8:25 p.m. This is P.O.C. Let me document this. License 6BRR254. License 6BQG318. They're all monitoring with those predators that are lurking in the dark, trying to find a way to touch on my body with engineered light. And when they can't do that, providing what is amplified, loud noise to engage in continuously monitoring. And that's also a terrorizing threat while a bunch of demons are pursuing you everywhere to monitor you, to keep you under surveillance. And remember, the ordinary target individual doesn't know what they're doing. So this is very harmful to the mind. This is terrorizing to them. And it's something that it's inscrutable because they don't know what the demons are doing. And they don't know that they're demons. But they don't know what the demons are doing. They don't know what the purpose is, but they're doing something. And they're also sensing spiritually that they're being targeted, even though they're not looking at you, they're not talking to you, you don't know them. All right. And they are ostensibly driving in traffic, but you are instinctively aware of the fact that something is harmful to you with regard to what they're doing, but it is for that purpose to appear like that on the surface. And that's supposed to be what the government defames you, criminally defames you with. You're going to prosecute for this. This is domestic terrorism and psychological torture. It's inhumane. It's animalistic. It's barbaric. It's very sick. You understand, you're mentally ill when you engage in psychologically torturing somebody else. You are mentally ill. You are. The entities engaging in this as a population. You need to understand that this population is demon-possessed. That's their fixation with the light activity, with the noise, with the pacing conduct, and they think that you don't know when they're engaging in their little satanic rituals. They think that you don't know that they're focused on your genitalia when they go inside the bathroom. They think that you don't know that they are acting with a whole entity, a whole state. When the neighborhood is stalking you, the government, that's representing the whole government. Millions of people are monitoring your genitalia, are invading your privacy. P.O.C. It is again, currently, if I can see the time, 8:27 p.m. NNH 979. This is a demon engaged in what is a molestation of my body. That's a sex offender that's terrorizing and stalking with the Ontario International Airport, who you will see stalking me at the U.S. Bank at 333 North Euclid Avenue, doing so with the sex offender license plate 9FMS338. That's another homosexual terrorist that wants to crawl inside of my vagina and dwell there. She's a demon, she's a psychopath, and she's stalking me with impossible light activity. 8SAB877. They're all subject to a federal prosecution, and Gloria's Cochinas, where they're engaged in sponsoring gang stalking right now through the corrupt maintenance of that establishment, where the ongoing gang stalking by the government and the people remains underway. Okay, the Ontario Police, they're all engaged in monitoring with the Ontario Police Department right now. 9GOC361. They're all engaged in criminal summoning with the Ontario Police. All right, license plate. Let's see. These are all terrorists. License 24061B3. License plate. I can't really see that one. License 28212A4. The homosexuals in the passenger seat, and her gang stalking boyfriend that's obsessed with my vagina is operating that vehicle while they're both demons gang stalking me together, and they're engaged in criminal summoning with the Ontario Police Department. License plate EC21895. That's a paper plate. This is P.O.C. Gloria's Cochinas is engaged in criminal summoning. They're located at 401 North Euclid Avenue. ARCO is, again, the entity. These are the establishments that are open, if you will, but the entirety of the entity is engaged in summoning with the Ontario Police. The entity relies on the people of the state to be present, using their lights in their vehicles, because they are demons engaging in surveillance, and they need the people to provide what is the guise for engaging in the use of that, the resources of that department, and all they're doing is stalking me. Okay? License 78FK910. License plates. I documented these demons' license plates and images. I'm going to upload into the Google Drive, but I'm going to go ahead and recite them now. The Ontario Police is monitoring with all of them. License 9FYR344. coming out of Gloria's Cochinas to engage in targeting me, sitting at the bench. Nobody else is thinking about that bench. All right, they're aiming the fake sun in alignment to me, roars rising, doing so while they're tracking my steps and sitting there because they want to monitor. And so I documented everybody. 6AVV451, 9BAC871. P.O.C. That's Gloria's Cochinas. That's going out of its way to come out, engage in what is gang stalking me by sitting on the bench where all of these demons are stalking me, where they're monitoring me all night long because they want to sit and listen to me breathe. Okay? They want to be where I am. There she is over there. There she is. She's inhaling. Okay, now she's exhaling. Okay, she's looking to the left. She's turning her. Oh, no. She's looking to the left still. Now she's turning to the right. Oh, she's scratching her. Okay, she's scratching her forehead. Okay, now she's inhaling again. That's what the demons are doing while they're monitoring, including the demons of the Ontario Police who aren't doing anything other than stalking me while they're remaining at the Ontario Town Square, maintaining light activity. That's nothing other than blue and red and white color lights of demons who are engaging in the same exact pattern of conduct. P.O.C. is currently 8:53 p.m. It's Saturday, September 13, 2025. This is P.O.C. All right, you'll see images of the Ontario International Airport stalking by hovering over the downtown Ontario purportedly luxurious apartments located at third-party facilitating venue 320 North Euclid Avenue, where that is a facilitating venue where surveillance is underway by every single resident and the establishment itself, which is why the government is maintaining commercial planes flying over that apartment complex, hovering over the street in order to target me. This is, again, a documentation of evidence pursuant to what are millions of defendants. They are the people of the state, and it's the government that's acting with all these people who are together. This is a mentally ill and a demon-possessed specifically. That's the cause of this mental illness that's psychopathic and sexually perverted. The entities engaging what is molesting me with light as well. I'm going to read the license plates of many of these demons that are gang stalking right here around the ARCO, the Chevron, the downtown Ontario luxury apartments where the airport is stalking by flying over that apartment complex next to me. All right, they're stalking in the path. That's why they're deviating, flying miles away from an airport, engaging, hovering over it in order to monitor me. They're doing so with the Ontario police who are crossing paths while I'm documenting it. You know those demons. They're getting disbanded. The entities engaging in what is doing so, and I'm going to document the license plates of these sex offenders that are molesting me with light while they're stalking in the path on Euclid Avenue. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is the same Ontario PD that is stalking by helicopter that Corporal Robledo and A. Morris, they were gang stalking as the same agency, and they're gang stalking right now. They're concentrating helicopter over me where I'm located, by the way, not over any event at the Ontario Town Square. And even at the Ontario Town Square, you're looking at that same presence of that fake sun, and this is the entity that's not deviating from that same pattern of conduct. Down here, these are the surrounding with light activity. That's the Ontario Police engaged in criminal summoning. Okay, that's the City of Ontario engaged in criminal summoning with the Ontario Police. That's light activity. These are demons who are monitoring, and they're doing so while Gloria's Cochinas, again, that's a corrupt business that's engaged in federal stalking. This is impossible light activity. Okay, a shadow is appearing in the dark, and a shadow is appearing while I'm standing in the light. That's where the entity is stalking. It's that surveillance, just like they were doing under the fake sun, where a bunch of psychopaths maintained an event today under the fake sun, and this is another event. The gang stalking immigrants are being deported, and they share in the violence and the hatred for this country that the Ontario police exhibit while they're engaged in criminal surveillance on American criminal activity. These are demon-possessed people. Light activity, relevant positioning, ongoing audible activity. This is the demon-possessed. They were monitoring my vagina. You see this show? They're all sex offenders also admitting to you that they were monitoring my vagina today. They're violent sex offenders, they're pedophiles, they're kidnappers, and they're serial killers. I'm not the first person that the Ontario Police Department have targeted in furtherance of conspiracy to try to murder. I'm the first one that's going to prosecute and disband them for it. Okay, it's currently 9:18 p.m. That's criminal activity that these demons right here are sharing in. License 9DFA596, license plate 7HFU197, license 9FYR344. Alan D. WAPNER is being prosecuted. He's providing evidence against the Ontario police and their criminal conduct regarding everything that they're doing in the city of Ontario that's centered around me and keeping me under surveillance. That's why I'm capturing the images of commercial planes hovering over the Ontario downtown luxury apartments,
There are no arrivals or departures. There are no flights coming from the airport that are flying through the city and then hovering over that apartment complex, flying in the direction west, like I'm documenting on a serial basis. The entity is engaging in what is stalking with the people of the state, and I'm documenting. These are demons that are molesting. When they're over there, they're molesting my breasts with impossible light, shining my face. That's a demon stalking with light, okay? And they're stalking with light while they're stalking with the police department. Corporal Robledo, she's going to federal prison, and so is Abe Morris. They're both going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:19 a.m. All right, the video you just listened to is the evidence of what I was documenting all day long. And I interviewed Robledo and Morris to confirm what is the malice while engaging in the pattern of conduct. That's what the significance of that exchange was. While they literally, through the sentence structures, through creating the words for me to see them, for them to be in the middle of Euclid Avenue and C Street, it's a federal offense. They're engaged in criminal surveillance, conspicuously stalking and threatening me. And they do so while the same criminal pattern of conduct is ceaselessly underway, and you're looking at all those iterations of that gang stalking system in operation in furtherance of committing murder. And the entity conspires your murder and terrorizes you and threatens and harasses you right in your face as Robledo and Morris engage in, and the rest of the corrupt agency, the Ontario Police, and using the resources of a government, which is exposing, again, the uselessness of that agency, how much of a liability it is, and how much resources are wasted on its existence, on criminal activity as well, feeding into and causing what is the rapid deterioration of a community based on the illness, based on the criminal activity, based on the lawlessness of this entity that's gang stalking. And that's me capturing the pattern of conduct as they're calling it, preparation for the event, capturing gang stalking while they're stalking me by and harassing and terrorizing me by helicopter every morning, every night, just like I captured at the Ontario Town Square this morning, capturing the entity stalking me by helicopter where that fake sun is at that same Ontario Town Square in the evening, and capturing the Ontario Police Department stalking, harassing, following me, remaining around me, terrorizing and threatening me with that, and with the pattern of using what is helicopter in the engineer light, that pattern of conduct in concert with the demon-possessed agency, that same agency that's been engaged in stalking all day long with the same demon-possessed people of the state. The entity is engaging in what is a satanic ritual. While you see this parade of Ontario Police vehicles, this is, again, Satan that's engaging in what is essentially like a march. These are psychopaths that are in their minds engaging in some sort of statement, some sort of act of retaliation. It's very foolish. I've captured the Los Angeles Police Department engaging in this conduct. I've captured the San Bernardino Police Department engaging in this conduct. This is what the demon-possessed do. This is a delusional and a defiant, which is speaking to a threat, the entity that will engage in violence in response to what is being prosecuted for criminal conduct that nobody should be subject to. That is the mind of the demons that are working for the Ontario Police Department, which is a terrorist organization exposed. License 7HFU197 is engaged in sharing in that ongoing puppetry, okay? They come out to their vehicles, accessing them, walking back and forth back into Gloria's Cochinas, a gang stalking facility. They're doing so while the demons are pacing up and down Euclid with the police vehicles with their lights on. Like there's a parade, and it is a parade. It's a parade of demons that are focused on me. This is their obsession with me. This is them going out of their way to make a statement to me. This is the reality of what they're doing. I don't care. I couldn't care less. They're going to prison. These demons are obsessed with me, and it's so pathetic, but it's also very lawless behavior. This is what the demon-possessed do to people that don't have a voice. And this is showing you how psychotic and how evil and how ruthless the demons of the Ontario Police Department in particular are. And that's shared by the people of the state. You're coming out of Gloria's Cochinas to go to your vehicle, which is right in front of where I'm sitting, pacing back and forth, using that car alarm in order to unlock your doors, grab something. Don't grab anything, just open and close the doors, because it's engagement in the crossing and path. They're walking with multiple shadows outside. They're accessing their vehicle, creating light activity. They're doing so while pacing back and forth into the venue, sharing in this puppetry. And these are demons that engage in this very delusional, they're in an alternate universe. These are losers. These are weirdos. These are psychopaths that engage in, oh, I'm going to shine you with light and that'll show you. Yeah, there you go. That's my response to federal prison. I'm going to shine you with light.
That's a demon. That's a psychopath. That's the admitted engagement of a demon-possessed gang stalker as well. It's very crucial and very obvious documentation for a federal prosecution. And those that wear police uniforms, like the demon-possessed of the Ontario Police, they go to prison for that. So that's the entity that's, again, failing at the outset, not understanding anything that they're subject to, because they just engage in ruthless conduct, murdering people, not having to answer for it, getting away with it, lying about it, and having corrupt actors surround them with what are false narratives in order to get over with it. This is what Jason as it feels, Tracy Banks, the state of California, the corrupt judges in courtrooms. This is what the demon-possessed people of the state providing perjurious testimony. This is what that system operates by. That's how I am dealing with 7-year-olds in the mine that are wearing Ontario Police Department uniforms. No accountability. It also makes no logical sense what they're even doing. And they don't even know. All they're doing, they're demons. They're not. I was talking to Robledo and Morris, but understand I was talking to demon-possessed people. Robledo and Morris are humans with blood pumping in their body, but they are spiritually dead. They are engaged in what is smiling with their faces. They're puppets of Satan, and they're maintaining what is the outward veneer, while they are demons who are obsessively monitoring me. That's it. That's it. And the entities engaging in that while they are being documented engage in ongoing targeting. And that's it. This is the entity that engages in that on video. This is the entity that's in doing so with regard to what is a conclusive and very clearly understood statement to the United States government. Enemies like the Ontario Police Department shall be removed from existence altogether. Okay, and they're going to be removed altogether, even while they parade around with regard to authority that they don't have in comparison to the federal government to have them shut down. Okay, and because that's exactly what's happening. They are delusional in their minds as though they're defying something federal. The federal prosecution of the Ontario Police of the state of California is going to put that in perspective for delusional psychopaths who are obsessed and consumed with thoughts of my vagina. That's what they're deluded with, while they're focused on me. And not understanding you're being prosecuted, sweetie. You're going to federal prison. You're not making a response. You're not stopping anything. Okay? That's the entity that's engaged in that. Now, understand that in perspective with regard to the ordinary targeted individual who was frightened, who was harassed, who was threatened, impliedly and expressly. Because they're stalking and threatening and engaging, oh, we're here providing services for the event, while the P.O.C. remains ceaselessly underway. And they also have a pattern of making up information as to why they're arresting you. And the ordinary target individual is at fear at every moment. Are they going to snatch my body up again and make up another charge? Is somebody going to accuse me of molesting their kids again and going to kidnap me and then throw me into the ward and then just keep me there for months and say that I'm crazy? Like, what is going to happen? This is what the entity does. They're going to be disbanded. And this is the entity that's surrounded by that evidence, and there is ongoing evidence of them engaging in what is sexual violence, and also the intentional conduct, the deliberate and malicious conduct of both psychologically torturing me, which is a matter of tangible evidence, while criminally defaming me, which is aiding in the criminal purpose of murder and stealing my money and property. That's what's parading around on video like fools that don't understand what's happening to them. License 7HFU197 is stalking like all of these demons that are pacing up and down Euclid Avenue. This is a population of demons that are angry because they are being exposed as what they are, obsessed with me, exposed as what they are, mentally ill and violent sex offenders. They're sex traffickers, they're murderers, they're stalkers, okay? They're kidnappers, they're liars, and they're thieves. 9FSS473 sharing in that. You'll see the entity stalking again by helicopter, flying over. After I capture that video, and the Ontario Police is stalking by helicopter, the Ontario Police is stalking on Euclid Avenue. The entity is then flying again over the venue by helicopter while demons are sitting in their vehicle. These demons right here. His homosexual girlfriend that's obsessed with my vagina, stalking with light like this demon, license 9RCG857. This is Ontario Police that's monitoring me through the sexual violence of a psychopath. This is another homosexual stalking with the Ontario Police, doing so molesting with light the moment that I move my person, and this is another demon over here stalking with light. This is what they're let me show you the images of my shadows. All right, this is the significance of molesting my buttocks with light. These are sex offenders, license 39855A3. This is another demon lurking in the dark, a sex offender molesting with engineered light. This is a hefty Latino male. This is a sex offender. This is one conspiring murder, gang stalking with the Ontario Police flying over the storefront where I'm located, flying east of me and flying west of me, while the demons are coming out of Gloria's Cochinas to engage in what is light activity. Operation of their device. That's what you'll see in the images where the Ontario Police are sharing in that conduct. This is what the people of the state are doing together. Okay, and they're doing that while they're engaging in criminal summoning at both ends of the street, and then engaging in a parade, which I capture on video, while a bunch of demons are stalking me by engaging in conversation and engineer light. They're engaging in elemental monitoring. Okay, license 78FK910. That's all going to be uploaded to the Google Drive. License 8ZDT533. License 7EQD471, coming and dropping somebody off at Gloria's Cochinas is stalking in the path with light. 7EQD471. Gloria's Cochinas, any gang stalking immigrants, the mariachi band, the employees, all the patrons, they're fully exposed to a raid anytime. All right, as are the people of the state, everywhere, the entire city of Ontario, fully exposed to what is a raid, okay? Because they're engaging in terrorism right now. They're conspiring the murder of an American citizen right now. They're engaged in war tactics against an American citizen on behalf of a corrupt police department right now. 33628S2. 9GVU059. 8CEB611. DSCREW, and that is, yeah, that's California, sorry. All right, license D809S0. And this is the same Gloria's Cochinas that the demons of the Ontario police were surrounding because they want to be next to me while I'm asleep. They want to be next to, I'm going to be honest with you, they want to be next to my vagina while I'm in an unconscious state, and they're just pacing around in engineered light all around me while they're worshiping me, while they're obsessed with me, and they want to be next to me. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is very creepy conduct while I'm sleeping outside, which is an economic status that the Ontario Police Department are responsible for, in concert with the rest of the people of the state and the state of California, the government itself, including every employer, including the corrupt official Jason Isaac Fields, accusing me of having HIV when he's the one that has HIV. And I want to be clear, having any sort of STD or your sexual activity is actually not legally relevant or sufficient to establish mental illness when somebody else wants to steal your property that you don't even know anything about, and while the government's engaging in criminal surveillance, which is speaking to, first of all, malice. The government knows that you're not infected with any STD. The government knows that you're not promiscuous. The government knows that you're not a criminal. The government knows that you don't know anything about the court hearings or the property. That's the malice of the entity that's engaging with it. They're feigning a whole operation of the system, of the court system, while they are gang stalking me and calling it an investigation. This is what the federal government, this is what Jason Isaac Fields had the audacity to do. Calling it an investigation, they were gang stalking, trying to get away with criminal conduct that they already committed. Calling it, oh, now we're going to investigate and look into these crimes that Erica Spencer is alleging, purportedly engaged in, because we need to determine whether she has capacity to control her own money and property that I don't even know anything about, the government never told me about. While the entity is engaging in what is a quote-unquote investigation, Jason Isaac Fields initiated the LAPD, the Pasadena Police, the Rialto Police Department, San Bernardino Police Department, Upland Police Department, Ontario Police Department, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, the Kern County Sheriff's Department, the Orange County Sheriff's Department, and every other police department. When I went through their city, they were gang stalking. This is, again, the entire state of California, as I've documented, that many and more corrupt agencies who are terrorist organizations. That they're not engaged in law enforcement, they're engaged in stalking, just like the Ontario police are engaging in. And they're also severely mentally ill. Their condition in particular is very specific. They're demons. So you're talking about this 7-year-old mindset? You're talking about this ongoing petty purpose federal prison versus I'm going to shine you with light, which is a federal offense. It's not a small thing. It's petty, but it's terrorism. When thousands and thousands of people are over and over again touching you with light, that is, where in the heck is that how is that even happening? Okay, the entity's doing that to keep you under surveillance as well. And they're doing that while a bunch of people are sitting around laughing and joking like nothing is happening. They're psychopaths. And that's psychological torture. Okay, but they are engaging in this, and that makes a 7-year-old feel better, but you're going to prison though. Like that type of mindset is what's surrounding you while bearing weapons, wearing badges, wearing uniforms, using vehicles issued by the county and helicopters to terrorize an American citizen. Okay, and then be in your face as though they have authority under the law to even be there, and they don't. Okay, I just want to be clear, that's what the entity is engaging in. The entity is stalking at this back parking lot because they are anticipating me documenting license plates. That's Gloria's Cochinas that's engaged in gang stalking. This is the Gloria's Cochinas that the Ontario police were surrounding in the middle of the night, and nothing was happening at Gloria's Cochinas. You know what was happening? I was there next to Gloria's Cochinas, and the demons want to be as close to me and my vagina as they can. Okay? The entities engaging in this, and this is what Jason Isaac feels is a part of this, what the federal government's a part of, calling an investigation, calling gang stalking investigation is relevant to malice. It's like calling gang stalking the food festival today on September 13, 2025. That's what the entity engaged in. And the entity engaged in that because they were determined to get away with making sure that I never speak about what the entity has already committed against me, that I never speak of any ongoing knowledge of sex crimes committed against me, that I never testify to the conduct that the entity has sought to remove evidence of, all right, like defaming me while also engaging in a campaign of psychologically torturing me, which is going to point to, wait a minute, so this person is perfectly sane and you were trying to drive them crazy? Oh, that's relevant to federal prison, yeah. Oh yeah, you're going to prison for that. A police department is engaging in that? And you did this with this high school graduate whore that how many of you have had sex with Tracy Banks? Okay, and so you're relying on her word while you're having sex with her as well, right? Okay, so you have an inherent conflict while you're relying on hearsay regarding criminal acts called court hearings, and the target individual isn't even there. The target individual is kidnapped. The target individual is documenting the ongoing system for years, and nobody is speaking about that part. Nobody's speaking about that. This is the entity that's going to federal prison, and that's the entity that engaged in gang stalking the Ontario police, all right? And they were doing it all day long, and you're looking at that same thing while they called it a food festival, and the Ontario police being present, providing what is security at the food festival under the fake sun, stalking me, going away from the food festival to fly over me by helicopter and maintain a parade of demons with their police lights on Euclid Avenue. And then the entities maintaining light activity of the police department, that's a threat. While they're doing so, they're monitoring, and that is also a threat, and they're doing so while the helicopter is still stalking me, flying on the east side of me and flying on the west side of me, while demons are coming out of Gloria's Cochinas to engage in what is stalking me in the path. Okay? That's P.O.C. These demons are engaging in that. 8ZFS 214, 8ULT 165, 9DEY 568, 9HWT 976, 7CAV 178, 9LMX 283, 9SAT 965, EF 57E69, that's paper, 6ZNY 245, 9MBM 410, 5JHJ 180, 28212A4. I read that demon's license plate. They were gang stalking while they're driving on Euclid Avenue, apparently into this back parking lot. And they're still monitoring right now, and they know that their license plate's being read. 6PHF248. For the demons of the Gloria's Cochinas to walk outside to share in the pattern of conduct with the Ontario police who engage in that documented parade, they're not focused on clubbing, okay? I'm trying to tell you, this is the entity that keeps the fake sun over me. They're not focused on anything but me, and this is the sad reality. The demon possessed are dead. Their existence is regarding the focus of Satan, and Satan is concerned about those that he does not have. And Satan is in every single last one of them. They're demon possessed, including their cursed children. Their children are obsessed with me. They're stalking and monitoring, staring. They're monitoring, and they're following me even into the bathroom. Okay, they're sitting around in libraries, just sitting around stalking, just sitting around making noise, monitoring my movement, monitoring what I'm doing on the internet. And they're also interested in that also because they are all defendants. I'm prosecuting the state. So all the defendants, they fill the library all day long. The library gets more business when I'm there because none of these demons reading. They don't read. Okay, but the library is full because they're monitoring, it's surveillance, and they're making sure every corner is covered, and they get more in a frenzy the more damning my evidence is, and it gets very juicy in 2022. Stay tuned. The entity is engaging in what is monitoring, so more and more demons fill that venue. That's what I've always observed, and that's what I observed today. The venue is filled up, nearly every seat on the first floor where I'm at, and they're doing so while I'm publishing evidence, actually uploading it to the YouTube. Okay, I upload a series of videos. I'm going to start February 2022. I finished the entire month of January of 2022. Okay, and the entity's engaging in very serious and relevant criminal conduct relevant to what they're doing right now. Okay, and the entity did this. Understand, these demons in the city of Ontario, like Diana, a former employee of the third-party security company at OVITT Family Community Library, engaging in criminal summoning, harassing me, stalking me, and monitoring my vagina in the bathroom. These demons thought they got away with it. When I was kidnapped in July 2022, and then I was released in January 2023, after 6 months of torture and terrorism inside of West Valley, where I've also shown you the fake sun is over me at that venue. Shannon Dykes is a demon. Shannon Dykes is engaged in kidnapping and psychologically torturing me inside of those chambers. Those are sex offenders wearing deputy uniforms and badges, monitoring gang stalking inside of that facility with the inmates with San Bernardino County. So-called medical professionals. Yeah, those demons stalking me under the fake sun with Ontario PD. Yeah, they're engaged in gang stalking. They are fully invested in what is trying to falsely depict my character so that this entity can steal a substantial amount of money from me and get away with it. They want me dead. And that's not an exaggeration. That's why the Shannon Dykes is engaged in kidnapping so much. And the entity no one is ever questioning what Ontario police is putting or charging me with. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's saying anything about the fact that I'm not getting an arraignment. Nobody's contesting that. The courts aren't giving me an ability to speak because they know I can advocate very well. This is, again, the entity that is facilitating ongoing corruption. Every aspect of it. License 9NDC 856. License 5GMK 565. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct and doing so pursuant to criminal conduct in the year 2022. Oh, the entity was, while I was been kidnapped, and it's relevant, while they're accusing me of criminal conduct that I would never do and I've never committed, guess where I was? The record will show, and thank God he gave me the forethought, the presence of mind to document, because the other purpose of documentation is to prove where I'm at and what I'm doing. And I'm out here being literally law and order, because the criminal is literally the government. And that's a position that no American citizen should ever be put in. Ever. Ever. That should never happen. That is an unprecedented violation of your rights and a threat to your life. That is a threat. That's a threat to your life. The average person does not have any idea where to begin. What do you do? What do I notate? What is relevant? What do I even write down? I know what happened, but how do I formulate that into something that is, palatable and that will be heard by people and make sense, and I don't come across as somebody that's just in a frenzy. And there's a lot of behind that. Okay, I am advocating on behalf of the ordinary target individual that does not have the skill set. Okay, that does not have they don't know, and that's not because they're stupid. That's because you shouldn't have to prosecute a federal government and the whole state, everywhere you go, to the bathroom, to the grocery store, to the internet, to the internet provider's office to sign up for internet for your apartment. When you're going to a hotel maybe you'll go to leave your apartment and go stay at a hotel and maybe you'll get a break. When you just drive on the freeway and stop on the side of the road. When you go to Denny's, when you are going out of the state, take a trip to Vegas, there's nowhere, the entity is engaging in this ceaselessly everywhere at all times. And the criminal is the government. And this is supposed to result in, and every other time it does, it results in the demise of an American citizen. And they die silently. And guess what? These demons that are monitoring me, they rejoice over it. These are evil, wicked people. They're very sick. Very sick. Very, very disturbed and demented. So I want to document that, and I'm going to document these license plates because they are a part of this ongoing campaign by the Ontario Police, and they're not only going to be disbanded, it's going to be celebrated because this is relevant to this country. It's relevant to what is under no circumstances going to be tolerated at all. And this sort of toxicity, this sort of mental illness is not something that should be, and this is mental illness that's born of choices. These demons act of their own volition. These demons choose to, first of all, it's also relevant to showing you how important I am. What are you doing? So you call, is that supposed to be a response or something? Is the light supposed to be a response to something? I don't speak psycho, and I don't understand what in a demon's mind that is supposed to accomplish. I'm actually a productive human being that makes decisions based on how fruitful they're going to be, what's going to be the end result, is it worth it? All right, I calculate that. The demon-possessed do not, and it makes you feel better to be documented, targeting me, pursuant to a body of evidence that's going to put you in prison. When I say you're going to prison, you're going to prison, and because you don't like that, that doesn't change that, though. It doesn't change it, though. And it's not about whether you accept it or not. You're going to experience it. You're going to find out how serious it was. You're going to find out. You're going to experience it. The entity is engaging in this, and the entity is doing that, and it's relevant to this country. Okay, so if you don't have someone that's going to stand up and do the right thing and voice what is the right thing and also shame the wrong thing, then that's a sad state of affairs. So it just so happens to be, by the grace of God, that I am one that was both targeted and also suited to resist it and also provide a solution to the ordinary person that I empathize with. I know exactly what you feel in that situation. I know exactly how you would respond in that situation. I know exactly how perplexed and overwhelmed you would be. And you are not stupid for that. You're not a dummy because you wouldn't know what to do. You're not a dummy because even if you had an idea, you wouldn't know how to do it or where to start. Or who are you going to tell that, you might not come up with the resolutions that I came up with. That's not because you're a fool or because you're a dummy or because they're powerful. It's not. They're demons. If they were so powerful, they wouldn't need millions and millions and millions of them. And guess how many it takes to come in the name of Christ Jesus and to win? Guess how many? One. It only takes one. Okay? And guess what? The one that already won, they're working from behind. They're working from behind. I'm talking about, because it's already done in the spirit, I'm talking about what's going to happen in the future. Something that no demon that's marching around in engineer light showing everybody how much of a delusional psychopath they are can change that. Nothing is going to change that. Nothing changes that end result that I already told you about. I gave you your forecast. You're going to prison. I gave you your forecast. So the entities engaged in this, and I want to be clear, that this is relevant to American citizens who have a right to prosecute for being subject to domestic terrorism in the United States. This is no longer a conspiracy theory. It's no longer something that's never been proven and nobody really knows what it is and we suspect it, but typically it's singularly maintained by those who are suffering from some mental incapacity. It's not a real thing. They're always paranoid. They're always hallucinating. That's a lie. That is Satan's pattern of conduct relevant to criminal defamation. And you're not exercising freedom of speech on the internet, spouting those things, interfering with a public investigation. You're not exercising free speech. You're interfering with a public investigation and you will catch a federal case. Okay, so the entities engaged in this, and I want to document the people of the state, stalking at Frontier Communications across the street with light activity. Those are demons that are obsessed, all right, doing so while they're monitoring me. The entities engaged this level of attention, this level of responding to what I'm stating, this conduct, all those people at Ontario Town Square today, understand it's more than that. Scores are monitoring my vagina. This is what American citizens have a right to not be subject to, okay? So I want you to be mindful of that while I document these sex offenders. License 8XEP730, 9SGS794, 8LQP207, 7VND728, 8ERE351, 9PBD259, 22146U3, 9SVJ163, 8RVE525. I think I might have read this one, but 9JQR745, 9EIU152, 8PMR860, 21995B3, 7UGP463, 9GST911, 9DTU, 9DIU168, and 9PXL701. Many of the other license plates I read while in the midst of my commentary right now. It's currently 10:15 p.m. I have more license plates that I'm going to add because I took pictures documenting the people of the state, and of those license plates I'm going to recite them because I don't want them to be missed in the evidence review. You can look at it, but I want to make sure that they are given due attention. They go out of their way to monitor my vagina. They go out of their way to give me all that attention that I am not soliciting. I'm going to make sure I go out of my way to make sure that they are specifically documented. 6FWP168. Every single business, every location, everything that has an address, any open field. I want to be clear. The federal government has jurisdiction to raid. You can raid anything, anywhere, anytime, based on this surveillance system that the government is engaging in. It's no longer a secret. And they're doing it with the people of the state that fully expose themselves to raids. All right, it's currently, by the way, 10:15 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, stalking in the middle of the night. Lurking. This is conduct of people that are very much conspiring to murder. Okay? License plate. 8ZDT533. It's 10:18 p.m. All right, it is currently 11:22 p.m. What you will see captured in images is representing the threat posed by the entity, specifically Glorias Cochinas at 401 North Euclid Avenue, that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. And they're also profiting from terrorism in the United States. Every demon inside of that establishment, under all circumstances, is engaged in gang stalking me and doing so with the Ontario Police. And they're doing so with the City of Ontario in total. And they're also engaged in what is the unlawful threat posed by the entity. So at what is, and this is with the intent to obstruct justice. Glorias Cochinas is a sex offender. And they're also a domestic terrorist, and they're engaged in ongoing criminal acts of obstruction that also include what is harassment and a threat to my life. Okay, so this is a gang stalker that is bearing a weapon. And he is in my presence. This is an African-American male, purportedly and that's again implied that I didn't ask him if he works at Glorias Cochinas, but he's approaching me. He's monitoring and doing so. The Ontario Police are demons pacing around. Again, this is the entity engaging in conspicuous stalking and communicating a threat while the people of the state exercising fictitious authority while they're all engaged in criminal surveillance. But authority as a security guard asking if you're taking pictures of what would be public information in the first place, even in their alternate universe. Are you taking pictures of people's cars? And I've documented when I went across the street to ARCO, I left a long time ago and came back. So this is the entity that's monitoring and asking me about something that, again, based on what they are supposed to know, is again based on knowledge of monitoring, because being in custody of your phone is insufficient. The entity is standing around acting like they're talking and laughing and that everybody's having a good time, the music is blasting. They're all paying a close attention to me. You're concentrating on me while you're asking questions about, are you taking pictures of people's cars? And you're doing so while you're also monitoring me. It's literally your form for monitoring me. And you're doing so while you're bearing a gun. He's got a big, large black gun on his right hip while he's asking me and about taking pictures of people's cars, which is perfectly lawful conduct. And it's also lawful when you are documenting the government. That's gang stalking with this third party who's bearing a weapon, engaging what is harassment. And this is Glorias Cochinas that's facing a prosecution for that. Glorias Cochinas, Ontario Police are all over gang stalking me with this establishment, okay? And using that establishment as a means of stalking me in the middle of the night as well. Glorias Cochinas, the establishment itself, that's a basis of civil and criminal prosecution. And the entity tends to engage in what is hiring immigrants. This is the entity that's fully exposed and vulnerable to being raided for what is terrorism, and then doing so with the immigrant population and doing so with the intent to obstruct justice. And the Ontario Police Department are indeed monitoring with them while they stalk by what is the Ontario International Airport, crossing path, flying over the Ontario downtown luxury apartments, a sex offender. Okay, I was going to get to them next. They're a sex offender as well. They're engaging in stalking and monitoring while the airport flies over your apartment complex, where the airport, it's going to be addressed in court, has no business, and there is nothing other than targeting me. That's underway when they're stalking by flying over the airport, stalking by flying over the Chevron, stalking by flying over the ARCO, stalking by flying over the Starbucks, stalking by flying over the Glorias Cochinas, stalking by flying over the U.S. Bank at 333 North Euclid Avenue, stalking by flying over the Ontario Town Square, stalking by flying over 706 West Holt Starbucks, stalking by flying over Woodside Senior Apartments, if I didn't state that, stalking by flying over the 7-Eleven at 636 North Vine Avenue, stalking by flying over what was Vine Avenue, 717 North Vine, when I was living in my car and I was parked on Vine Avenue on the side street outside of Woodside Senior Apartments. This is before the entity stole my vehicle, the same entity that's still gang stalking. This is the people of the state that are gang stalking. They're the same ones that defaced my vehicle, and the entity is also the one that engaged in theft of my vehicle with the Ontario Police. The entity is going to be subject to a comprehensive prosecution. But the entity is stalking by planes when they're flying over the San Bernardino County Housing Authority on Lemon Avenue. They're stalking while they're flying over Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. They're stalking while they're flying over me, flying over my head on the sidewalk. None of that, and I mean all of that which I mentioned, has absolutely nothing to do, and the government is going to struggle because it's not going to happen. They're not going to reconcile takeoffs from the airport. They're not going to reconcile the elevation. They're not going to reconcile what are the zoning regulations, what is the agreement with the city, while I'm documenting them targeting me in those aforesaid manners at those locations and also in the specific environment. It's very detailed. And I'm going to prosecute for the entity that is stalking with Glorias Cochinas, who is then threatening me with the third party that's in my face. And it doesn't matter how I'll say casual he is, okay? Because he wasn't like, I'll say this, you're very rude. It's rude to be gang stalking. So yes, he's rude, but I'm stating in his statements that he made, but you're analyzing everything. You're not just analyzing what the person is saying. The Ontario police are simultaneously pacing up and down Euclid Avenue while he's being very chill. Man, you know, acting like he's pretty nonchalant, I'm just doing my job, I don't really, were you taking pictures of people's cars? I don't really care either way. This is what he's stating. This is his outward demeanor. It's audible activity, relevant positioning. He's monitoring. And he's monitoring with the Ontario International Airport that just provided you evidence of that. While he's engaged in that pattern of conduct, he's monitoring with the Ontario police that I captured. Crossing path, he's monitoring me with them. And this is the entity that thinks that it's engaging in what is conduct that's not identified, or that you don't see, or that they're not going to be I don't know what inferior demons think in their minds. I really don't. But I know their pattern of conduct, and the entity is engaging in gang stalking during the midst of this exchange with this third party who was bearing weapons in the specific environment. The elements remain underway, and he's doing so conspicuously with the Ontario police, who are pacing on the same street where sex offenders are molesting me with impossible light, at the D Street and Euclid, driving up and down the street, and doing so conspicuously stalking, while I'm being asked about taking pictures of people's cars that are outside, and you're supposed to be inside of Glorias Cochinas getting your party on, so focused, but they're not. They're coming outside with regard to my every move. A whole group of them came out standing on the sidewalk. Remember, all of them have triple shadows, while the Ontario police are flying on the east side and then the west side and engaging in what is a parade, stalking and monitoring. That's what they're concerned about, not getting their club on at Glorias Cochinas. It's not about that. And Gloria Cochina's business is because it's gang stalking me. That establishment is gang stalking me. I'm going to prosecute for that. You're not keeping those funds. You're not keeping those profits. But again, that's the prosecution of the entire entity that's engaged in corrupt businesses. This is public corruption, and it's going to include what is a civil and criminal prosecution. Okay? Glorias Cochinas is a sex offender. This is documentation of what is harassment by that establishment, and harassment is committed with the intent to obstruct justice. Glorias Cochinas is harassing me because they're monitoring my documentation, and they don't like that the demons at this venue are being captured with the title that is absolutely appropriate, and for your information, the truth of the matter, that they're demons. Okay, and they don't like that, and so that was the purpose of that iteration of harassment with the same entity. Okay, while they're engaged in stalking me with impossible light activity, you're asking me a question that you already know the answer to because you're monitoring. You're going to diagnose the entity for this kind of conduct. The answer is already established for the court, so you'll already know what it is that they're doing when they make statements, when they engage in the pattern of conduct in the malicious ways that they do. And that psychopathic and malicious behavior is going to result in what is their diagnosis, what is the entity being committed, and the entity being prosecuted for what is gang stalking and psychologically torturing an American citizen. Okay, but I want to be clear, it's federal prison to engage in gang stalking bearing weapons. So third parties such as, what comes to mind? Bring Security. I've documented Garda World. Not Securitas, but there's another brand where they're picking up money. That's what Bring Security is engaged in. They pick up monies from venues, and the entity engages in this at any place, anybody. They engage in it at any time, just like the Ontario Police did today. Oh yeah. They'll pick the time that I begin uploading. That's the time that they pick to surround with light activity in order to monitor. And the entity, just like that, they can schedule, make up it, they create it as they go, okay? And the entity, even if it's already on the books, for example, it's scheduled. They won't arrive until it is conducive to monitoring me. They play into that pattern of conduct. It's built into, it's facilitating that ongoing seamless pattern of conduct. It's all centered around what I'm doing as I'm doing it, while they're monitoring, okay? But nonetheless, the entities engaging in what is monitoring, those are the type of businesses where they bear weapons while they're gang stalking. And that is still the unlawful, intolerable threat. And it's also a business that's engaged in that P.O.C. They're doing so. Those types of businesses are bearing weapons while they're doing so. And the policy doesn't change. The entity that is engaging in that pattern of conduct, your life is always at threat. And they're psychopaths who are highly unstable and obsessed. And they're liars. That's what I've shown you. That's the reason why I've shown you that. It's not just these people who are bad people in Ontario. No, it's not. This is a character issue. It is a behavioral pattern with this particular mental illness. Okay? The entity is threatening your life, and you are analyzing everything. Not just the tone of voice, and not just the facial expression, and not just the position, and not just the body language. You're analyzing everything, including the specific environment, including their co-defendants who are sharing in that pattern of conduct. All of them. Okay? The entity that's smiling in my face and talking about, oh my gosh, do you want a cupcake? It's my birthday today and I think that you're so cool. I just want to give you a cupcake with my favorite cream cheese frosting. And the Ontario police are standing behind them, a group of them, while the fake sun is over me, and they're standing there with their vehicle lights on and engaging in what is criminal summoning. That's an unlawful threat. And that's malice while a third party is in your face, talking about whatever, the daisies in the sky, okay? It doesn't matter. That's the unlawful threat. You're analyzing everything. And that's how the entity engages in that P.O.C, by the way. That's exactly how it's presented to you. But the entity is engaged in, the entity is, and by that, let me back up. By like that, I mean in a malicious manner, wanting to present as one way, like a stranger. And ignorant about you, and also ignorant about what the police are doing. I don't know. I don't control the police. I don't work for the police department. I don't know what the police are doing. Okay, like again, wanting to present like they're normal people, because that's what a normal person would think. On the surface, that's what you're supposed to think. Okay, the entity is engaged in what is very much psychologically harmful behavior. Okay, and a normal person isn't going to make assumptions that you're targeting me, but you're engaging in conduct which is presenting that, and then also at the same time you're trying to present as though you're not, that you're sick. Okay, you're very sick. And then they're engaging in stalking with light. They're stalking under the fake sun, and they're stalking with regard to the amplified audible activity, and they're doing that while they want to maintain this outward demeanor, and then that whole outward demeanor is not even there anymore. They're delusional. It's gone. Okay, if you weren't stalking under a fake sun, and you weren't stalking and molesting while you're half a mile away with impossible light, if you weren't engaged in a pattern of being everywhere that I'm at with some method of light in my path, like a psychopath, if you weren't engaged in a pattern of making sure that somebody is, every time I turn, and somebody is always there, and if I don't see anybody there, if I make a sudden move, somebody is there out of nowhere, okay? If you weren't engaged in that, then you could maintain a persuasive act as though you're actually minding your business, you're actually strangers, you're not obsessed with my vagina, you're not stalking, you're not a demon-possessed, deranged psychopath. You're not. But that's not what we have here. And the body of evidence, the pattern of conduct shows that. This is a delusional entity. They're both stalking with impossible light activity, and they're also feigning as though you are supposed to believe that they're saying, and you don't believe that. Everybody knows better now. You've seen it, okay? So these are now people that are demon-possessed, and they're openly demon-possessed in front of the world, and they're also openly obsessed with Erica Lorraine Spencer, and they're also openly engaged in what is highly demented behavior, exposing their mental illness on the outside. It's manifesting in their behavior, okay? And they're also admittedly engaging in criminal conduct. And that's by virtue of stalking with impossible light activity. Okay? The entity's doing that one after another, after another, after another. It's supernatural for it to happen one time. The entity's doing it over and over and over again. The downtown Ontario luxury apartments located at 320 North Euclid Avenue. It's a sex offender. All right? They're engaged in criminal monitoring with the people of the state that are pacing, monitoring me while doing so in relevant position to that venue. Again, you're going to drain the pockets of businesses, of facilities that are sharing in that. It's the same with ARCO. It's the same with Chevron. It's the same with Starbucks. Starbucks is not open right now. But again, the P.O.C. doesn't stop with business hours. I'm just speaking to where the demons are going with regard to stalking me by some sort of, well, I'm doing something. This is what they're in their mind. They're delusional. Oh, I'm doing something, so I'm not stalking you. I'm buying something, so I'm not stalking you. I'm a stranger, so I'm not stalking you. I have a boyfriend, so I'm not stalking you. I have kids, so I'm not stalking you. I'm not talking to you, so I'm not stalking you. These are all the false premises upon which gang stalking relies. And it's all an illusion, and also all legally irrelevant when you are understanding how the system of gang stalking operates. And you have a lot of delusional psychopaths that are in need of serious mental examinations, which they're going to receive, and they're going to be prosecuted. That's going to be the headline news, that they're going to be prosecuted in ways in which they clearly do not understand. While they're engaging in the maniacal conduct, they have no idea what's happening to them. Okay? Intellectually speaking, I'm soaring over them. I'm soaring over them. and that's just the reality. And so the entities engaging in conduct, and they're just like bashing their heads across the sidewalk to the white meat, and they're hurting themselves. So, like I said, that is the P.O.C. The entities engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they're doing so with regard to what is the establishment. I want to document specifically the sex offender's license plate C479B1 and the sex offender Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, the sex offender Gloria's Cochinas. All right, the entity is engaging in a sex offense perpetually. Thousands of people are molesting my body. Thousands of people are keeping my vagina under surveillance. Thousands of people engage in sex trafficking me, because that's what the entity committed. And that's why they're out in the street in the middle of the night molesting me with impossible height. They're sex offenders. They're going to be prosecuted. All right, it's currently 11:37 p.m. This is a sex offender stalking with light, license 9CBS734. This is P.O.C.